2 seconds if anybody's there, just bear with me. It's really slow for some reason again. Bear with me a wee second. How's it going? How's you all doing? Alright? So the Flares Brigade are still running about denying reality and being totally dishonest. Totally dishonest. Incredible. What is going on with this OBS? Honestly. Is the sound coming through okay here? And it looks as if there's a bit of lag on the video. Sounds okay. Good, good. So, I had a little fucking poke at a few flat earthers earlier on today. One in particular is this character FPV Angel, who thinks that they've figured out the whole universe because of halos under the ground and all this magical stuff, and you know, people talking about chakras of the earth and this, that and the other, and they're all patting each other in the back while physics is just pushed to the side. So I'm going to prod them yet again and expose how utterly dishonest flat earthers and globe earthers actually are. The level of dishonesty at this point is absolutely insane. These people are fucking barefaced liars. Just barefaced liars. They do not comprehend their own model. They do not comprehend basic physics. They don't comprehend the claims of the other models that they claim to be opposed to. Right? Both flat earthers and globe earthers both require physical downwards acceleration. So rather than them jumping ahead of themselves, I'm going to make it very, very fucking crystal clear to them. Right? In these two examples, the one on the right is actual physical downwards acceleration. The one on the left is claimed to be downwards acceleration. Now, what you've got here is an opposition to actual reality, because this one on the right here is actual, real world, actual physical downwards acceleration. And this is what happens. You get a displacement of materials. This one here is claimed to be downwards accelerating without the result of this. So flat earthers and globe earthers now have to use circular reasoning based on a special pleading. That being that the special pleading that in the case of this one, both are all of the materials, the cylinder, the gas and the liquid within it are all accelerating down at the same rate. Now, this belief, make no bones about it, it is a nonsense, pseudoscientific cult mentality, belief system, belief in the totally absurd, right? They want you to believe and want to keep claiming that this is accelerating down without any of this stuff displacement. Now, in every single occasion, every single time that acceleration happens, we get a displacement. As you can see here, what happens is the air correlates to the direction of travel. So at the point of acceleration coming from here, you've got the dense material here and the least dense material here. That's the way it formulates. Now, not only are they special pleading in this case, not only are they special pleading for this all to be accelerating down equally at the same rate, they are also defying practical physics yet again, that being that when acceleration occurs, the air will be the direction of said acceleration. In this case, we're accelerating to the right. As you can see, the air is now to the right and the liquid is now to the left. Okay? In this situation, they want you to believe it's all accelerating down and the air's here and the liquid's here, yet it should be the opposite in this case, like the one on the right. That being that the liquid's now at the top and the air is now at the bottom. Now these flat earthers are continuing to defy their own claim. They wriggle, they squirm. So you ask people like FPV Angel who say, I don't claim there's downwards acceleration. Then he goes on to say, but when you jump out of a plane, it's clear to see that the aircraft gets smaller and smaller, so you are indeed falling. And when you press them further as they wriggle and squirm, they have to admit that they are claiming downwards acceleration. Then you ask them to justify their belief in the absurd, that being this scenario, that it's all accelerating at the same rate, which is contrary to reality. It's not in the natural world. None of this stuff happens in nature. In nature, 100% of the time, when acceleration's at play, this is the result. This is not the result. This is special pleading from a belief, a bias. Your stationary Earth or your globe Earth fantasy. You circular reason and special plead for special types of circumstances that are not demonstrable. So again, I will ask flat earthers and globe earthers, if you believe there's a force that can accelerate gas, liquids and solids simultaneously without displacement occurring, not only that the air will be towards the direction of the force that it's coming from, and the liquid will be orientated there. Again, contrary to every single practical example. So they're reality deniers. They deny physics. They actively hate on anybody who tries to represent reality. So I think it's becoming very, very clear that both the flat earthers and the globe earthers are one and the same. Grifters, liars, out to hoodwink people, out to push misinformation in order to garner some sort of monetary benefit, to maintain their egos, whatever. All I know is they're disingenuous, gatekeeping little morons. It doesn't matter what they say, how they wriggle and squirm, this is their claim, that this is all accelerating uniformly towards the Earth. We go to physics, we accelerate, we witness what happens. Now these people's claims are contrary and contradict, fly in the face of real world practical demonstration. So, make no bones about it, at this point, these flat earthers, FPV Angels, David Banners, Flatzoids, Nathan Oakley, Jeranism, Witsit, the whole Space Audits crew, fucking that whole other American faction, every single one of them is a disingenuous, lying piece of shit. Right? It's that fucking simple. If you want to understand the psyop that's been played on everybody, practical physics is your saviour. This is how you're going to know who's telling you lies, because this is actual downwards acceleration. This is claimed downwards acceleration, but none of this happens. So which is it? Is it actually accelerating down, or is it not accelerating down? Because we can all clearly see that it's not accelerating down. Now, any rational person who applies logic, Occam's razor, right, would comprehend that there's a displacement of the liquid here and a displacement of the gas above it. Ergo, the force must be acting up the way. Now, you can start jumping to the up the way claim and wriggle and squirm and dance all you fucking like. The fact of the matter remains, you believe in your religious bias that there's a downwards acceleration, accelerating solids, liquids and gases without displacement, without the reorientation of the gas and the liquid, flying in the face of all demonstrations. You believe that, you push that. Until you can demonstrate for me in some other vector that you can accelerate gas, liquids and solids by any force you want to claim exists in the natural world, demonstrate it for me. Show me it. You do not get qualified by your religious mantras, your religious bias. Station the Earth globe Earth with mathematical magic accelerations. You can act dumb all you like. Right? You might well be fucking dumb. If you're still professing that this thing's accelerating down, then I have to consider that you're absolutely clinically retarded. Right? Beyond fucking help at this point. This is physical downwards acceleration. This is not accelerating downwards. When we see a displacement of the gas and the liquid orientated as such, then we can conclude logically, practically, backed by every single example and demonstrations that we can garner, that when acceleration is at play, the orientation will be air furthest from the point of contact and the more dense material closest to the point of contact. So in this case, the contact is here, the acceleration is acting downwards, and we get a reorientation of the liquid at the top and the air at the bottom. That's the facts. That's reality. All the word salads and wishful thinking about electromagnetics and electrostatics and magical halos under the ground and chakras of the earth and all this other woo-woo chat, that's never going to change, I'm afraid. The more you dig your heels in, the more I'm going to spit in your face, I'm going to point at you and highlight you for the gatekeeping, lying piece of shit that you are. Okay? It's not my fault. They are lying pieces of shit. If somebody's going to keep claiming that's accelerating without any signs of it accelerating, you're a lying piece of shit. End of story. All the dancing about asking questions about other aspects. Oh, what makes it move? How do clouds work? Oh, how do planes work? How do parachutes work? Oh, that's just you wriggling. Mental gymnastics to avoid your claim, your belief system. Religious gibberish. While yous all sit there professing your truthers and that you're on some righteous path of wokeness to wake the world. You're a deluded, lying cretin, gatekeeping. That's the reality. So don't forget it. Globe earthers and stationary flat earthers both claim the same thing. Physical downwards acceleration without any detection of such a thing occurring. How's that for mental gymnastics? Absolutely fucking insane. No, Miss DJ, if the container's heavier than the liquid and all that, it doesn't make any difference. Attach an anvil to the base of it. It'll still show the same. This is what I mean by the wriggling and squirming. Desperation to try and maintain some idiotic bias, some psyop of a stationary earth that you bought into. It's a psyop. That's why all your gatekeeping mainstream flat earthers are pushing it. It's a psyop. It's nonsense. The thing is you know, it should be very obvious now. If you try and engage with these people with honesty for a discussion, they just start attacking you and wriggling. I mean, this guy FPV Angel earlier on was given it, but there's things that about the luminaries that we don't understand. Things that have to be looked at. What's that got to do with practical physics? What has that got to do with your belief, your claim, that when I let a vessel go, an accelerometer of gas, liquids and solids, your claim is it all accelerates uniformly without displacing? Again, that flies in the face of every single practical demonstration. It's not the natural world. While you sit there rambling on about the natural world, you don't have a clue, you don't care about the natural world. All you care about is your bias. For whatever reason, these people are pushing this psyop nonsense. None of them have got the fucking cojones to sit and have that discussion. How about a shout out, Angela? No worries, Angela. I don't know why you're here. Much love. When you're in William's chat saying, William, you should go and speak because you're not as Scottish and loud as the Scottish guy and stuff. Playing divisive games. Trying to, you know, subtly attack people's characters. What's that about, Angela? Why do you feel the need to try and play people off against each other? Why can you not just represent yourself? I see all these wee games. All this passive-aggressive, lovey-dovey, spiritual woo-woo nonsense. Well, you chat shit about people when their back's turned and then you come lovey-dovey. You're in a wrong place. I'm not the guy to cosy up to with that shite because I'm going to tell you to your face and chances are you're probably going to act like a victim now and blame me for it. So that you don't need to take responsibility for your behaviour. So, ram your lovey-dovey right up your ass. I ain't interested, okay? See, that's rude. That's rude. So's talking shit about me behind my back. At least I'm going to say it to you. Some of these people are under some impression because they've moved about in weak circles of new age fluffy duffy lovey woo woo crap that somehow that's going to wash with me. I mean, I think you better clear the specs and have a closer look here. I'm a very loving guy. I'm a very understanding guy. I'm a very compassionate guy. Bullshitters I have zero tolerance for. You don't think I'm what, Angela? You don't think I am what? You don't know me. Why is this disconnecting and reconnecting? What the fuck is going on? You don't think I am what? So egging William on to be the one that goes into debates because I'm Scottish and I'm this, that and the other. That's no talking shit, Angela. Could what be equilibrium, you observe? The emperor has no clothes. Could what be equilibrium? The claim of downwards acceleration without detection of downwards acceleration that flies in the face of every other example of actual acceleration. So are you still trying to come up with some rationalisation for your absurd beliefs? Is that what you're attempting here? At the risk of being attacked, victim. I just think if you're going to be so sure about something, these demonstrations need to colour all variations. Yes, that's the point, Mr. J. Right. Look, it's very, very simple. I'm going to make it clear for you again, right? Because some people are just so blindly dumb that they can't grasp it, right? In this scenario here, on the left is one in free fall. On the right is one under actual physical acceleration. Now, the one on the left is claimed by globe earthers and stationary flat earthers to be accelerating downwards. Now, in all cases of acceleration, we get this result, not this result. When things are accelerated, the air's opposite to the direction of the force, and the more dense material is closest to the force. So in this scenario, it's being accelerated down, so the water now goes to the top and the air to the bottom. That's actual downwards acceleration. You can do this yourself right now. Go test it. Test it until your heart's content, and I guarantee you that 100% of the time, this is what is going to happen. Now, in this scenario, there's a special pleading that it's all accelerating down at the same rate, which is why it doesn't displace. On top of that claim, the air is here and the liquid is here, which is again opposite and opposition to all other practical demonstrations of actual real world, natural world, actual reality, proper physical acceleration. So, which is which? Should we conclude, no, the orientation of this is wrong, the force is not acting upwards, it's actually acting downwards, although that claim flies in the face of all practical physics? What's it to be? Do you comprehend? What else do you think has to be done? Please clarify. Thank you very much. Oh, I'm wrong. Robert Hunt says the Earth's accelerating outwards in every direction and it is a globe. That's why I put this dishonesty thing in here. Because now it's going to be some word salad. Right? The globe Earth's accelerating outwards in every direction, but it's not actually. It's the warping and bending of space-time that's flowing in. Objects aren't actually accelerating, they're following a geodesic path. So they're moving but they're not moving, accelerating but they're not accelerating, and when it reaches the Earth, the inner pressure of the Earth causes a pressure that way and resists the inward flow and stuffs. But this cretin's just the same. There has to be that physical downwards acceleration which flies in the face of all practical physics, every other example of actual physical acceleration. But these people think that they have some sort of buy, that they can use word salad, some religious mantras, in order to evade and avoid actual reality. while they try and sit on a high horse claiming science and stuff. They are deluded cult members, hell-bent on trying to make the rest of the world believe they're in the inane, insane gibberish. I'm no the man for it. Away and convince some weakling of your derp. I ain't interested, son. Exactly, Amanda. You know, they come here, the people who brought it forward and do the actual tests and start making demands. No, listen, the demands have to be on their part because they're the ones claiming contrary. They have the most outlandish, exceptional claims ever known to man. Uniform acceleration of gas, liquids and solids without any displacement. Again, that flies in the face of every example. So they're the ones with the extraordinary claim. They're the ones who are duty bound and have the massive burden to demonstrate and qualify their position, which they never do and they never will do because it's nonsense. Pure and simple. Total and utter nonsense. That's fair enough, Sir Lord, but they continue to come here with a religious cack, trying to spew it as if we're going to accept it. Exactly, Steve HV. It's all just circular reasoning. No, it's not. Push to the top, missed DG. You can assume whatever you like in your fantasy world. Go and test it. That's the beauty of practical physics. That's the beauty of people like me who don't tell lies in regards to the natural world. You can go and test it for yourself. You don't have to be here with your religious mantras. Just go and test it and then show me the results. No words needed. No bias, no belief systems, just physics. Cold, objective, hard physics. Go and demonstrate it. Good luck. Was you ever invited to the final experiment? Yes, I spoke to Will Duffy, who's another dishonest little cretin, who, you know, professes that he wants to comprehend reality. So you explain to him about the claim of downwards acceleration and yada yada, and he's a lazy little lying shit stain who doesn't bother to go and test and check for himself. He's just here pushing a lying agenda, right? Just a little snake, a little snivelling religious lying piece of shit. Yes, Will Duffy, you are a snake, son. A lying little shit pile. Did you do the tests? Are you intellectually honest? No, you're not. You want to go, oh, look at the sun. I want to see the sun in the sky and stuff because I'm a little fucking infantile moron. People need to do their own demonstrations. All words are meaningless at this point. Exactly, Natalie. I mean, it's that simple for these. It's physics. We show demonstrations. We account for the claims through practical demonstrations, but the flerfs and the glerfs do not. Both are religious nonsense. Globe Earth and stationary flat Earth are psyops. They are nonsensical liars. It's no physics, it's not based in the real world. It's about a fantasy realm, and the only thing they've got for it is words. Just the same as any other fairy tale about Narnia, about fucking Santa Claus. That's all they have, words, stories. They don't have physics, because physics absolutely flies in their face and shows how dishonest they actually are. The shooty weird dances and vibrations. Right, so use static to accelerate the gas, liquids and the solids without them displacement, because that's your claim. Until you can qualify that sort of notion and you can word it as fluffy as you like, just physically demonstrate it. That's all I'm asking. Just go right now, get a video camera and use whatever you think's a force to accelerate gas, liquids and solids without them displacing, and post it, send it to me, and I'll present it and show it. The thing is I know you can't do it because I've tried. Because I'm the honest one. Right? I've tried it. I've tried to find ways that you could accelerate these things and it be so. The fact of the matter is, and I have to accept reality because I'm an honest person, the fact is, that's no reality. There's no force known to man that can achieve such a goal. It's nonsense. It's in your mind. Get a fucking grip. Slap yourself and snap out of the psyop. For fuck's sake. Look, everybody that comes to this, get yourself a vessel of gas and liquid in it, solid. Accelerate it. Watch what happens. Put little devices in to detect the displacement. I guarantee you it's going to detect it every single time. Now ask yourself the question, can you justify the belief, the visual fantasy that it's all accelerating down at the same rate? And then ask yourself, what grounds do you have to justify such an absurd notion? The answer is, you don't have any grounds. You've got a mantra, stationary Earth or globe Earth, with magic that can make it happen. But you've got nothing real to justify that. Nothing. It's embarrassing. You should be ashamed of yourself. I'll show you the video in a wee second. Again. It's alright, I'll show them it. I'll show them it until their little hearts are content. Right? So that we can all witness the wriggling and the squirming behaviour of these people, right? Let's show them it again, right? So on the left, this would be in free fall. On the right, that's actual acceleration. Before we get to that, let me just show you this, okay? So that you can get an actual comprehension of your actual reality. No some YouTube psyop version of reality. right? When force is applied, motion, right? Acceleration, what you're going to see happening is the air will move away from the direction that the force is coming in, and the liquid will be closest to the direction that the force is coming in. Okay? Okay? Right? So now that you comprehend that, you can go and test it for yourself, right? So that you can see that it is so, and it's actual reality, right? And we'll come back to this one. Right? So when you now look at a density tower, an accelerometer, in this case, right? And you see, like here, let's just let this play, direction of acceleration, oh, right? You can see what happens, right? These videos are jumping a little bit, so I don't know how that's coming across on the live. So here we get to this one, right? So already we can see that the air's here and the liquid's here. So that in that case then we must conclude the force is now acting up the way, because that's what we witness every single time. Right, now let's accelerate down, see what happens. Oh! So we can see here, this one in free fall, claimed to be accelerating downwards, is not displaying what happens under actual real life, not fantasy world, real life acceleration, right? But we are now supposed to believe this is all accelerating down in lockstep. Again, without the air being here and the liquid being here, which defies the practical physics that you can go and test for yourself right now and correct yourself and slap yourself for ever having the stupid belief that that's what was going on in the first place, right? Now you can do that, right? You want me to believe that's all accelerating in lockstep, but you can't justify it. You cannot demonstrate it in any way, shape or form. Other than using circular reasoning and appealing to some special conditions just in your special earth fantasy model that that's what happens. And the way you qualify it is not by practical physics, it's by just going round in circles and asserting that that's what's going on. No. In order for a claim to be qualified, you have to qualify it. So if you make a claim that goes against the real natural world and everything we witness in it, you need to justify it. So you now need to get the force that you're claiming can achieve this downwards acceleration uniformly of gas, liquids and solids, and you must be able to demonstrate it in some other direction. Go for it. Let us see your results. It's that simple. No need for bandwagons, no need for cult camps, divisions, attacking persons and all this other culty behaviour. Just cold hard physics. Go and demonstrate your beliefs. I'm going to tell you, because I'm brought it to the table, I went through the process, I know you can't achieve it, because it's not reality. Let's just clean this up of these fucking bum sniffers that want to try and just put the focus onto me. Bye-bye. I'm not entertaining any of these people that want to, obfuscate from physics and want to turn it into a personal thing. Right? That's not happening anymore. I'm just going to keep asking you for the physics, your demonstrations that support your claim. So you can wriggle and you can squirm. Flat earthers, globe earthers, wriggle and squirm to your heart's content. You're scared of the facts of reality, very scared, and it's palpable. Right? Shiting yourself, hell-bent on bastardising reality so that you can maintain your little religious culty belief. Sorry about that. Sorry. That's just tough titties, that you were too weak and gullible that you fell for a psyop. That's not my problem, that's your problem. That's a big you problem. Robert Hunt, does your model claim that the Earth linearly moves upwards? In the case of the falling water bottle accelerometer example, what happened there, Robert? I know what you're going to say, because it's your model and I know it. That the gas, the liquid and the solid all accelerated down in lockstep. And there's your problem. There's your culty fantasy beliefs. No such force is known to man that can achieve such a feat. All there is your faulty interpretation of the phenomena and your religious bias reasoning based on your presuppositional fantasy model of a globe earth. That's you, Rob. I know ye, son. I know it like the back of my own fucking hand. You're in the wrong place, wee man. I dare ye to come in and have a chat with me right now. I'm going to open up the Discord in a wee second. I hope Rob Hunt comes in so that I can expose the clownery of his religious fantasy. Because that's all it is, a nonsense religion. I ain't interested in religions, son. You can stick your cult right up your baggy ass. How can it be moving simultaneously upwards in every direction? Is your globe earth growing by each second, Robert? Is it? Let's let Robert run right into a brick wall and display for how all of us, how utterly insane you have to be a cult globe earther. What kind of nonsense word salad's that? Equal balance between any powers, influences, etc. Eh? What in the name of word salad fuck was that supposed to be? The Emperor has no clothes. Should I go and get some fucking dressing for that nonsense that you just spewed at me? Is there a translator in the house? Is there a translator of utter gibberish into cohesive, logical, rational explanation? That would be great, thanks. Never into Bowie boom me. The only things I really liked about Bowie was the later stuff. That Black Star. Black Star for me was probably the best thing that Bowie ever done. Just in my incredulous opinion, because I've not listened to enough, but Black Star was fucking absolutely stupendous. Yes, dim-dims indeed. Fantasists, I mean, it's, you know, it's about the practical physical world, and when we use practical physical stuff to assess how things behave in the real natural world, these people just ignore it and start making claims that fly in the face of the practical physical world and think that they've got justification to do so. I mean, it's insane. But they don't take responsibility for it. They'll just come back and say, how do sunsets work? Like fucking Rachie Bumsniffer emailing me from some dingy account, trying to act like a fucking smart ass. Rachie, you absolute fucking cretin. How do suns work? How does a sunset work in flat earth? And how does this work and how does that work? No, Rachie, son. How can you have a globe earth without physical downwards acceleration? Should be the honest question. Absolute fucking lunatics. They should be fucking locked up in a mental asylum. That's the reality of the situation. They are fucking loonies, poisoning the world with their fucking religious nonsense. Give me a wee second here. It's actually really, really sickening. You know, there's good people that have endeavoured to uncover some of the nonsense and represent it and present it. You know, and these people are now shitting all over it. They're determined to drag this in to the realms of utter nonsense and keep it there. These flat earthers and these globe earthers are really just not honest people at all, which is why all they ever want is debates with each other, because both their models are psyops, right? They're not reality, and they want to keep everybody's attention in these two psyop, you know, false equivalence or false dichotomy nonsense, right? They're fucking insane. I'm sick of hearing truth matters and people saying that they care about the truth and this, that and the other. I don't see any of them caring about the truth. All I see is them caring about their own ego, maintaining their own stature that they think they have on YouTubes. Exactly, Amanda. I was the same. Could see right through them, but they're now being exposed to a great level of clarity. I mean, it should be crystal clear now. You know, you go there and you try and engage them. You know, they try and jump to upwards things, right? And all you're saying to them is, listen, you're claiming downwards acceleration. There's no detection of downwards acceleration. Not only is there no detection of downwards acceleration, you're claiming something that's absurd. Uniform acceleration of gas, liquids and solids simultaneously. And that the acceleration doesn't display what it displays in every single other example. So it should be crystal clear. All this gymnastics about the final experiment, looking at the sun, and all these mainstream names continue to push this nonsense. Well, if in the reality, if they were genuine, they would be saying, no, this is correct. This is real world physics. This is what happens. Now, when we witness this in freefall, that's not what's happening. The very fact that when I'm holding the vessel, the air's at the top and the liquid's at the bottom, shows you that the force is going that direction. They want things acting downwards while you've got air bubbles rising against the force. I mean, it's downright lunacy. There's no other way to express it. And if you think I'm just shouting and I'm bad and whatever, it's because you don't comprehend it. If you did comprehend it, you would be just as irate and annoyed as I am. Because I'm telling you, if you continue to be ignorant and you continue to, support and push these types of characters, you're going to be let down very, very badly. Well, Angela, I know, and things come out in me in a certain way because I'm not a needy person, okay? And I would love a world of love and honesty and compassion and yada yada, but it's just not the way the world is. And I put up an exterior sometimes, especially on YouTube, right? And maybe you don't mean it a certain way, but I take it as a jab at me, because I'm the one that uncovered it, figured it out, brought it forward and presented it, right? Now, William and Andrew and everybody else are awesome, right? They comprehend it, they present it well, they do practical demonstrations, and I respect them and I thank them for it. But sometimes it feels like a jab to me, that just because I'm Scottish, somehow that disqualifies me in some way. And I get a bit protective and passionate about the truth, because I don't want to be pushed to the side. I want to be at the forefront having the discussions. So don't take it the wrong way, right? And I'll let it go that that's not how you meant it either, right? And let's just forget about it. And everybody else, Jai C, Jason, Skilly Wonka, Amanda, Natalie, all you guys that have figured it out and know how to present it and articulate it and actually comprehend it. I love that fact. But call it my ego, my want to be at the forefront and be present within the discussion. I don't want to be pushed to the side. Oh mate, I think you said it, the joke that is the final experiment. Is there anything else I need to say? It's a joke. As I expressed, Will Duffy is a disingenuous, lying piece of shit. The reason I'm saying that is because I expressly conveyed to Will Duffy about his worldview of a globe Earth and it requiring physical downwards acceleration. right, and expressed to him that he should go and check and test to see if that's the case. Now, Will Duffy has done fuck all about testing the physics of his professed world. All he has done is continue to push a narrative of optical interpretation of intangible phenomena, that being the sun, and trying to make assertions about what is and isn't going on in regards to, psyop models and maps of flat earths and globe earths. He's a cretin. Doesn't deserve any respect, has no intellectual capacity to be involved in this. A grifter who's jumped on a bandwagon for some other agenda. Will Duffy, globe earthers, stationary flat earthers can go and test the things I'm presenting and saying anytime. And they can test them for a year, every single day, and every single time they will get the same results. Now, as that should be more powerful than any circular reasoning, presuppositional fucking positions, interpreting things on a bias, optically. You would think that an honest person would grasp that. But no, I know these people. Little snivelling bum sniffers. Lick spittle. And that seems to be what they're vying for, Thomas F. Egron. They're trying to grow for leading status. You hear them saying stuff like that. And it's got nothing to do with honesty, it's got nothing to do with objective inquiry. It's got nothing to do with establishing the actual reality, the physics of what is going on in our reality. They are not interested in it. The reason they're not interested in it is because things like this puts an end to it. The fact that no physical downwards acceleration exists ends the globe earth fantasy right there and then. The fact that no physical downwards acceleration exists ends the stationary flat earth psyop fantasy dead in its tracks. It's definite. There's no way to avoid it. But they attempt to avoid it, and they attempt to obfuscate away from it and drown it in all manner of nonsense, because they're trying to perpetuate the false dichotomy of the two psyops being globe earth, stationary flat earth. That's their game. No, exactly, Sir Turtle. They have nothing practical to support their belief. It's just a belief. And you understand, where does the belief come from, right? Because in order to qualify something as being objectively true, you have to practically demonstrate it, right? So a globe earther has no practical physics. So they start from a bias that they already presuppose it's a globe. Then they observe a phenomena of something falling, and from there they interpret the phenomena to suit that presuppositional bias, a globe earth. So, and then they'll go into all manner of mental gymnastics, bastardising physics, twisting physics to the point of absurdity, so that they can maintain that belief. It's just not an honest process at all. It's a cult. And that's how cults operate. They do not operate from honesty. They're not interested in what the actual truth of the matter is. All they seek to do is reaffirm their presuppositional model. How's it going, Eric? Dale, what would you say if they do manage to film 24-hour sun in Antarctica? What would you think the sun is if that took place? Nothing. There's 24-hour suns in Antarctica. What else is there to say? Is that going to change the fact that there's no downwards acceleration? No. No heard for Gav. But imagine life's taken over. I see Space Audits in this crew have jumped on the great switcheroo and now presenting what was presented here years ago. So I don't know if there's a collaboration going on there. Who knows? I can only speak for me. Again, this aspect of truth has divided people. And the reason it's divided people is because the ones who have caused the division are the ones with a bias. They have an emotional reaction to actual reality. It's called cognitive dissonance. And through their cognitive dissonance, they have shied down and hid themselves away from taking responsibility and offered up an endless amount of nonsense as a response to the actual reality that they live in, which is their problem, not mine. So the Earth is, question mark, a system in motion. That's what the Earth is. I don't see the Earth's accelerating upwards, Rob Hunt. I don't know where you're getting that. There's a demonstrable constant upwards. I've not got an emotional reaction to actual reality. I accept actual reality. Actual reality shows me there's no physical downwards acceleration. Hey, did Robert answer the question if his globe Earth's growing by every second in order for it to accelerate outwards in every direction? What size is it tomorrow, Robert? You lunatic. Or are you going to use some double speak? It's accelerating but it's no moving. Fucking nut job. Nutter. Right, let's get Discord opened up here. See what's what. Let's see if any stationary flerfs or globe earthers can justify their absurd notions, shall we? What's the predictions? What predictions are we getting? Are we getting some rational explanations backed by actual practical physics from any of these cult lunatics? I fucking highly doubt it. In fact, I guarantee that we won't. The only thing you're ever going to get from them is a bunch of word salad, some religious nonsense. with no practical physics to support their position whatsoever. Right, let me see here. Right, I'm going to post live chat waiting room. Click that. I'm also going to post copy a link. ChatGPT is a troll's best friend. Exactly, Natalie. Right, Rob, get the link clicked, son. If you don't have Discord, send me an email. abchao77@gmail.com. I want to hear your religious nonsense. Come on, big guy. Big brave man. You appear to be the smartest globe earther I know, because at least you claim there's upwards motion, although you're still trying to maintain a globe earth belief, so I don't know how smart you actually are. I think you're just a wee bit confused. I'm the man to straighten you out, don't worry about it. Let's hear it. Chop chop. abchao77@gmail.com, or click the Discords and come in and let me hear your religious spiel. Go and run about your Discords and tell all your Globe Earth friends to come and have a chat. All this talk about McToon and all that stuff, where are they? Where are they? Every time I go live, they just don't happen to be here. Yet they seem to be on Discord and everywhere else just about 24 hours a day. It's funny that, isn't it? It's just a coincidence that when I'm on live, they just don't seem to be there. Funny. Hell of a coincidence. A coincidence theory. Exactly, Marky. Predatory behaviour. Right? predatory, weak behaviour. They're no confident in their own position. It's not the truth, so they know that they're actively looking for, low-hanging fruit to do battle with. It's obvious, so obvious. Aye. Practical physics, how humbling. Yes, the equaliser. The equaliser for this whole debacle is the practical, real, natural world and how things actually behave in actual reality. But again, that shows you that you're in opposition to fantasists, cult lunatics, religious hogwash. So they run from the equaliser. They don't want it. They want to sit in their high horse, acting like they've got the objective, practical, physical world on their side. The reality is that it defies them. So they've been trying to play a bluff for the last decade. Well, now your bluff's been called. Let's engage in practical physics and establish what the real world actually is. Smoke? Yeah, if you're having one. Thank you. Thank you. Who do we have here? Anders Ace, how's it going? I'll keep checking in the waiting room, see if any of them show up, but I highly doubt it. If they don't show up and they go into the comment section, I'm just going to start removing everything. For any comment that they put up, it's just going to get removed. The only way any sort of engagement's going to happen is if it's direct from here on in. No engagement in the comment section whatsoever. So as soon as I see any sort of nonsense from any of these people, I'm just going to remove it. And they can cry victim all they like. They have an avenue. The avenue is direct discussion, immediate, so that we can look at your practical physics that support your claims and we can display it for everybody. You're not getting to play your manipulative little games in my comment sections anymore. Okay? And I would encourage anybody else that's aware of this aspect of reality to do the very same to them. Just cut them off. Don't allow them to comment in your comment section. Just tell them that you're only open to direct discussion. You're ducking me, Robert. You've been here since I came on. You're ducking me. You're running away, shiting yourself. Because you're dishonest. Because you know what's going to happen. You know that you don't have practical physics to support you. And you know that, you're well aware of it. So that tells me that you're aware of your lies. You're aware that you're actively pushing pseudoscientific hogwash. So you're exposing yourself, Robert. Because if you did have practical physics on your side, you would be rushing in here to show it. Because you've been here for an hour. So don't hit us with your bullshit, son. Now that's all lovely-dovey. I mean, Robert, I don't know if you're aware of who I am, but see this sort of manipulative, lowbrow attempts. It doesn't work with me, mate. There are flirts I despise, no question about it, but you aren't one of them. Oh, that fills me with warm, fluffy fuses, because Robert Hunt doesn't hate me like he hates the other flair. So now my ego is going to play some sort of role here and give Robert a bye.
There you
Thank
go,
you very
my
much.
lovely.
Thank you.
Sometimes you don't have an ego.
Yeah, exactly. So Robert, try again, son. Some of these people, they're incredulous to how smart somebody like me is and how sharp to their behaviours. Right? You're not dealing with some wet behind ear, spoon-fed little fucking namby-pamby fucking sheltered boy. Right? That's just not how it is here, I'm afraid. Seen it all, heard all the fucking games, all the plays and manipulations. It's futile. I suggest you stop it, because you're just going to embarrass yourself. And I'm going to have to slap you verbally every time you do so. So I would avoid that sort of interaction and just don't attempt it. I don't give a fuck who you like, who you don't like. It matters not a jot to me, has no bearing whatsoever. All I'm interested in is the cold, hard facts. What's your claim? What aspect of reality, what practical physics do you have to support your absurd notions? End of story. The rest is just dancing and avoidance and all manner of weakness that I can smell a fucking mile away. No, Thomas, that's correct. They don't fit these PSYOP models. Yes, Robert, my feet hurt because I can feel the earth pushing up on me. And that's it, space is fake. That's exactly the whole, my whole path. Human beings are living in delusion. They're acting like they know what life's about, whether that be, chasing their own, goals of careers or whatever it may be, their ideas of life, what they think life's about, what the meaning of life is, what you should do in life, what you shouldn't do in life. They're all just nonsense. Because human beings don't even know where they are. But yet they're trying to lay out games and rules of what life is and what we're supposed to be doing here and yada yada. It's all just delusional hot air. I use that example so many times. If you were kidnapped and taken to a confined area, right, and the blindfold was released from you, and you were put into some enclosure somewhere, you know fine well that the only thing on your mind is, where am I here? I need to establish where I am so that I can maybe look for a way out of here. Right? Human beings are not even doing that. Human beings have been put in a hostage situation and don't care about where they are. They just don't care. They just accept, well, this is just it. Oh, right, so now life is whatever I decide, because they're mentally ill. The vast majority of the human race is mentally ill. They don't have a clue where they are and why they're here, but they're all trying to act like they do. The reality is they don't. When you comprehend it at that level, it's quite frightening. The level of willful delusion that human beings go through is astounding. Astounding. And these people still think that they've got a place in some heaven realm next to some deity, or that the aliens want to engage with them. They're fucking retarded. Absolutely fucking shit-stained retarded.
What'd you say, Dell? Can you hear me?
Who's this? Hold on. Brian, how's it going? Can you hear me, aye?
Sorry?
Can you hear me alright?
Yeah, I hear you, but I hear you loud and clear. I think.
I don't know if you've still got YouTube turned on, Brian. You'll need to turn YouTube off.
Yeah, let me do that. That any better?
I don't know, it was alright for me. There obviously seemed to be a delay for you though. Can you hear me?
I'm trying to. Yeah, I hear you.
Cool.
I'm trying to figure out this this laptop. So my microphone's probably a little bit different. Hopefully it's better, because usually I'm on my phone, man.
Cool. Well, as long as you can hear me, then it should be
Oh,
alright.
I had a couple questions for you, man.
Go for it, Brian.
I always love picking your brain, man. You got a pretty straight shooter. So I'm asking. I've had a couple discussions, trying to get people to contemplate the topic, and what kind of luck have you had? Like, is there how many flat earthers, let's say, are out there who? Well, let me start by saying this, okay? I would think that everybody would recognize that whatever causes weight is got to be narrowed down to one of two things. Unless you're the type to just say it just is, you know, that to me is not an answer. But it would have to be either an acceleration or a force causing an acceleration. I mean, is there any other options that I'm missing, or doesn't it have to be one of the? I mean, it has to boil down to one of the two, right?
No. Because I've said this to you before, Brian, and again, and it kind of irks me that it keeps getting ignored. What is inertia, Brian? Why does matter resist motion?
Yeah. I mean, I'll answer that, but I'm not trying to give you any type of resistance. I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to figure out the path you take on trying to get people to contemplate the subject. Is all I'm doing, though.
Well, the two options are for me, Brian, is that the Earth system is in motion, with whatever we call inertia having an effect on it, or the whole Earth system is some sort of stationary thing with a field that moves through us, right? So, Brian, it comes down to the very simplistic aspects that I presented at the start of this video. That is in a free fall test. Is the gas, liquid and the solid all accelerating down towards the Earth, right? If the claim is yes, then that has to be qualified by demonstrating a force that can act in such a manner, right? Not only that this force has to act in such a manner that while it's accelerating, it does not invert, so that air now goes towards the direction of the acceleration and the liquid to the back of the acceleration. So that's the reality. That's the simplistic questions that should be getting asked of these people. It's they are the ones that have the absurd, extraordinary belief and claim with no justification of such. Now, Occam's razor, practical physics. If I've got a vessel sitting on a table with air above the water and water beneath the air, ergo the force must be acting upwards. if anybody's gonna try and reason something contrary to that, good luck.
Sure, and yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is that it would have to be a force. If there is another option, it would have to be a force that. I mean, what else could I call it other than magic? Well, let's just say. What I was asking is there any other options? It would have to be some kind of force that pulls everything equally at the same rate, no matter what the mass is, to make it pretty much show no displacement in free fall.
Yes.
For that to be the inertial frame, it would have to be some kind of force like that. But I'm trying to think if even that works, Dale. Because I've thought it through, and even a magical force like that, to me, there's still a couple loopholes in it. I give this a lot of thought. I'm not even sure that would work, but I was asking, is there any third option?
No, because even
just the two options.
Well, even if there was a force like that, we're only talking about the gas of liquids and solids in relation to each other. We've got buoyancy and density as the factor also that ceases in free fall. So this force now would have to be accelerating gas, liquids and solids simultaneously and switching off buoyancy and density. So something buoyant on its way up opposing the force when it's released into free fall. The force now has to act, the opposite direction. I mean, Brian, I don't know at what point, Brian, people are going to get fed up with the nonsense trying to evade this. It's bizarre. I'll ask you, Brian, right, because you're obviously thinking about it. Now, can you foresee any sort of force that could achieve such an absurd claim?
No.
Right.
And when you give the option of a magical force, I'm not even sure that's an option, Del. The more I think about this, it's almost no way around it, man. Like to even say that it could be this magical force pull and everything. I think even if we was to use that magical force, even that still has holes when we test it in reality. In my opinion, the more I think about this, the more it narrows down to really only one possibility, man. But
well,
I'll tell you what I mean in a minute.
I mean, it's as simple as that. They're pleading and requesting a force that's not demonstrable. So how can somebody claim they're scientific, rational and logical and sit there still trying to request that sort of force would exist without any practical way of showing it? I don't even get why we would even allow a word salad notion of such a force. That's just, it doesn't compute in my mind. I don't even know why they get a buy or any leniency to invoke such a notion.
Well, I mean, that's what I was contemplating, man. Let me run this by you. So, for anybody listening, okay, this was my thought process. For anybody who gives a shit. So I'm trying to think of such a force, and I'm thinking, for anybody who thinks that it can be anything other than a force that pulls everything equally. Well, here's my thought reasoning as I was trying to process that possibility, and I'm thinking if something's falling, the inertial frame is in free fall. So if it's a force, and if it's not pulling everything equally, then in free fall, we would still get displacement. In other words, if it's pulling the heavier objects greater than the lighter objects, then we would get displacement of solids and liquids and gases even in free fall. So it has to be a force that would pull everything equally. But then when you get to the ground, when you get all the way to the surface, you do get displacement. But in free fall, you don't get displacement. So Newtonian gravity is pretty much just from that fact alone, it's out the window. It can't possibly be a force.
No.
There's no way I can reconcile it, man.
Well, here's the thing, Brian. If I get a vessel, right, that's made of steel, and that vessel weighs on the earth on a scale 50 kilograms, and I then put in, 1 kilogram of water into that vessel, and we release it in free fall, just as you're saying, that steel weighing 50 kilograms should be accelerated down towards the earth much quicker than the water, ergo we would get displacement. Now, you know and I know that when we do that, and I will do it, 50 kilogram container with a kilogram of water in it, that's not what's going to happen.
Right, but so if they say that the displacement is caused when we reach a surface because the let's say the steel is got more mass. Well, what's the difference between that and free fall? If it's the force pulling something down,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, like you're saying, we would get that same phenomenon
But
during free fall
but
because it would pull
but this is
the
the
steel faster.
But
or
this is
harder.
this is the globe earth nonsense. So the globe earth wants you to believe that the force is acting downwards, so it pulls everything uniformly downwards. So we've got a vector of down. Now as soon as it comes into contact with the earth, all of a sudden we've now got another vector which establishes itself called buoyancy. So we've now got a vector acting simultaneously in two opposed directions. It's total nonsense, man. Everybody can test that acceleration of these materials shows one vector. You cannot have one vector with an opposed vector simultaneously, causing two different directions simultaneously. It's nonsense.
Yeah, man. I've been thinking so much about this, man, and thinking of ways to test it. But just you can, just thinking about it.
Think about it.
Eliminate.
Think
You
about
can
it.
eliminate the bullshit.
Well, think about a vessel sitting on the table right now, and there's air bubbles rising in that vessel, right? What you have to believe from these people is that there's a force acting downwards, while an air bubble rises against the force acting downwards. So again, we go to practical physics and we go, right, let's apply force to the system and see what happens. When we apply force to the system, the air goes the direction that the force is going in, not the opposite direction.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy last night, and we had a pretty good conversation. And he's super This guy is super open-minded. Is to me about as open-minded as they come, But I'm trying to explain this to him to get him to think, and he's not stupid either, man. He's not stupid. It's just I'm not saying the right things to get him to even consider it. He's I don't know, man. It's to me, there's got to be a way, easy way of explaining this to get people to contemplate it, but before they even accept it,
Yep.
Just contemplate it. Look at the damn reality. Like, what is it in people's minds that just block them from even looking at reality? It's strange, Dale.
The simplicity for me is, Brian, an analog accelerometer of gas, liquids and solid, and you apply force to it and you witness what happens. Now, show people that and say, right, now I'm putting it in free fall. Are you going to claim that it's all accelerating down? I mean, it's just, I don't get how it has to be. I cannot fathom how much more simple it gets.
You're as baffled as I am. So what I did is I was explaining to him about an acceleration. I was like, so if we go in any direction, any vector, we accelerate any vector. I'm trying to explain it to him simply like that to show him the displacement horizontally, laterally, whatever. And he's like, well, then let's not talk about we're talking about the up and the down. And I'm like, dude, you're trying to box in the conversation. Like, to me, it's his brain literally shutting down thinking. Like, his brain won't let him even even contemplate. It's like a brain block, bro.
Even if you just say on the vertical, fine, right, okay, so if I accelerate the vessel upwards, then the vessel remains in its orientation. Not only that, if the air bubble was rising through the medium when I accelerate it upwards, the air bubble now rises through the medium at a quicker rate, matching the rate of the acceleration. Now if I accelerate it downwards, the whole thing inverts. The air bubble now wants to go towards the earth and the liquid towards the sky. And if there's an air bubble in the liquid, the air bubble now wants to go towards the ground. So
that's what I told him, man. And check this out. So he had an answer, and this, I'll be honest, a long time ago when I first contemplated, I thought the same thing. He was thinking like Peter and Pete, like the accelerometer is just calibrated. It's the way we calibrate it. But I told him this. I said, it can't be the calibration. And this goes out to Peter and Pete, because they're where I was a while back. So if you just say it's the calibration of the accelerometer at 1G when it's sitting on the ground, and you think you can calibrate it to 0, that means if we accelerate the accelerometer horizontally, that means we got to get it up to 9.8 meter per second acceleration to get back to zero.
Yep.
So my question to him was, how can you have to accelerate to match that 9.8 meters per second? What's in between? What would be halfway between 0 and 0?
Yes.
So it can't be just the calibration, right?
But they want to focus on a digital accelerometer, which is the only digital part's the part that gives you the number reading. The physics of an accelerometer is a displacement aspect. So how can you calibrate gas, liquid and solid from the natural world? I mean, what are they talking about? Where in the example of the water bottle with the gas and the liquid in it, where's the calibration? None.
Don't need any calibration.
Of course, because they're
right?
natural substances. There's nothing to calibrate. They just behave the way they behave. So if I now accelerate them, then I witness what happens under conditions of acceleration. That's the bit that these people keep wanting to skirt over. They're invoking that the acceleration's happening without us witnessing what happens in every other case.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to explain to him that nothing would work. So the reason I also came with the approach of the water bottle and with air in it, but I was trying to explain to him that nothing would work. Drones wouldn't work if you calibrated an accelerometer at 0. I told him you could calibrate it at any if you think it's just the math, yeah. If you calibrated it at any other number, you could make that work with just math, but not 0, because the accelerometer would not know what way it was going. It wouldn't. It would literally, if 0 is sitting stationary on the ground, then that means you go laterally. Well, at 9.8 meters per second, that would also be 0, right? It's even, you'd have to have a halfway point. There's no halfway point between 0 and 0.
But Brian,
you see what I'm saying there?
But it's even more absurd, because in order for them to say that there's a calibration, right? Well, the calibration would have to happen in free fall, because in free fall there's no displacement, so that would have to be the calibrated point of view. But the problem for them is these people are claiming that in free fall there's an acceleration happening. So they want their cake and eat it. They're talking about, things are calibrated. Well, the calibration would be from free fall, where no force is acting, because that's when we see no displacement, right? So if you calibrated your accelerometer from there, then there's your calibration point. But they're claiming that in that calibration point of 0 that it's still accelerating.
So yeah, exactly, that's a good point, man. And I'll tell you what, and the reason I'm mentioning this, Dale, is because like I said, when I was first contemplating this, that's what I thought, is it's just a calibration. But I worked it out in my mind. I went over all the possibilities, and I finally concluded that no, it can't be the calibration. It's not even possible at all, period. And if I'd had somebody to explain it, like you just did, or the way I just did, it would have been a lot quicker of a process, man. So, because a lot of people, man, there's a lot of people out there who that's what they fall back on is just the calibration, and just for them people out there listening, that's not even a possibility, not even a little bit.
Well, if they want to, again, the focus only comes on the man-made digital accelerometers, which the only digital part, as I say, is the reading that you see on the screen. The components are physical, operating under the known facts that when there's a force at play, there's a displacement. So, if they want to say to me about the water bottle, well, I would ask the question, how do you calibrate gas and liquid from the natural world? What are you talking about? Where would your calibration point be? I'll tell you, the calibration point's free fall, because we can witness there's no displacement in free fall, ergo there's no active force present in free fall. So as soon as it comes into contact with the earth, voila, we get displacement. Now, what is it? Is it the earth that's causing the displacement, or the materials themselves coming into contact with the earth? And that's where they start the circular reasoning. Because in order for it to be the accelerometer, they have to invoke the notion that the accelerometer's all accelerating without any displacement, yet when it hits the earth, there is displacement. That
can't work.
No.
That's not possible.
No,
and then we're still good.
No, I'm just going to say, it's nonsense, mate. We're trying, and what you're saying, and I get it, Brian, fair enough, you're trying to keep the door open continually, but at some point you have to just say to yourself, look, I can't keep invoking nonsense, or maybe, or it could be this, or it could be that. Just ask them to demonstrate their beliefs. It's that simple. Until somebody can show it, why are we even talking about it? Do we sit here Do we sit here discussing pink unicorns from the fifth dimension having an influence over reality? No, we don't. The reason we don't is because pink unicorns don't exist.
Sure, man. I'm a little stubborn, but not really. I do have my own thought process and everything, but I try and always leave the possibility of, well, basically the chance for any possibilities, and especially for the case of discussion, Del.
Yes.
And it's aggravating me with these Globers.
But
the most, though, I'll be honest.
But Brian,
they don't. They want to keep reverting back to Newtonian, and what we just said is if they're going to attribute the displacement due to the fact that the steel is heavier and there's more, the gravity's acting on it harder, then then things wouldn't fall at the same rate. We would get the same displacement. I mean,
yep.
Newtonian gravity was eliminated a long time ago for a reason, man. The inertial frame has got to be free fall. You can't have an inertial frame on the ground
nope.
and in free fall, right? What am I missing, man?
No, that's exactly it. And that's what I would ask you the question, Brian. What qualifies a claim for you? What is your bar of reference for any claim?
To me, demonstration is always king, man.
Well,
that's always gonna win. So.
End of story then. That's it. Same for me, Brian. And that's where it has to end. Because if we don't, we end up with globe earth fantasies. We end up with other fantasy models of reality and an endless amount of fucking gibberish. If we walk away from the practical real world that we can all share, the equaliser, the thing that separates the wheat from the chaff, then I don't know where the discussion is. If it's not in the practical real world, then it's just people in fantasy worlds talking about their conceptual notions, which is fine, but don't come and try and assert that it's my reality. You know?
Yeah. I mean, you keep thinking about it, like you're probably further along in the thought process, but it's hard to think about anything else. Like, I'm trying to work this out. I'm trying to come from a logical stance. I'm trying to come from the point of demonstrable reality, what I can show, what I can see, what I know, how I know things happen. And man, it almost boxes you in, Del. The reality of it's boxing me in, dude. Right?
Well, I don't see it as boxing me in. I just see it as it's just reality, and it's very easy for me just to accept reality as it is. The problem is if you're influenced by people's cognitive dissonance, who don't like reality, who want to bastardise reality or change it in some way. That's not my problem. To me, it's very simple. I live as a practical man in the real world. I am part of the effects of nature. Nature is all around me. So any man making any claim about my natural world should be able to demonstrate a claim in the natural world using the practical aspects of the real world. That's what physics is in my book. So, and if they can't qualify their position through that process, then their position's nonsense.
Here's the problem I'm running, trying to defend any other possibilities. The problem that I'm running into is that if I consider like an electrostatic force or a gravity type force, even a magnetic type of force, I keep running into this problem. So even if it was a force that pulled everything equally at the same rate, like I said earlier, I'm reverting back to that. So even if it was a magical force, we would even be able to know that, because I mean, tell me if I'm thinking, because it's the same thing. If something's falling and it's getting pulled at the same rate, then even when it hit the ground, it would have the same rate of pull. So there would be no displacement even when it hit the ground. On the ground would have to be the inertial frame.
Yep.
And free fall would have to be the inertial frame. You'd have to have two.
Yep.
But I don't know, man.
We wouldn't have a gradient. We wouldn't have buoyancy and density, as you say. Everything would be equally, pulled. There wouldn't be a gradient.
But I will say this though, Dale. Like it's aggravating. Is that talking to people about the electrostatic possibility is still, bro. It's still a step up from the people who think just buoyancy and density, which is where I did come from. So admittingly, for years I thought just buoyancy and density, but then when you work that out in your head and you're honest with yourself, you quickly realize that something's got to be happening. There's a vector, and to ignore the vector is just was me being dishonest with myself. So, dude, to break even through that was might be a challenge for some people, man. Like,
Well, I think
I get so frustrated trying to talk to people like who won't even acknowledge a fucking vector. To excuse my language.
no, well, it's exactly that. They're just employing mental gymnastics. They're just avoiding it, Brian. And again, electrostatics, magnetism. Well, let's look at it then. Can you accelerate gas, liquids, and solids with electrostatics, magnetism, with any of these sorts of notions? No, nobody can achieve that. I can't achieve it. It's not real. That's not how reality functions. There's to invoke a force, right? So as I've expressed it before, in order for a vessel of gas, liquids, and solids to be accelerated by a force, this one force must be able to apply varying force to the gas, the liquids, and solids, because again, that's practical physics, right? You cannot have one force that can apply varying force to different states of matter at the same time. Even saying it it causes me to coil up and cringe inside that anybody would think that.
Don't you know anything, man? It's impulse, Dale. It's impulse.
Oh man, yeah, exactly. Or there's no net force, but there's motion. These people are just insane, Brian. Absolutely fucking insane.
I kind of refuse to accept that, man. As stubborn as I am, I think there's got to be a way to get them to contemplate. Like I said, even if I don't get them to accept it, man, it's almost like I'm trying to figure out the mental aspect of the brain block. It's almost like a brain block. And if you could find a way past the brain block and just get people to think, just stop the blockage, and that comes with opening your mind. And you think you're dealing with people with open minds, but you'd be surprised, man. It's like our brain can be a mule sometimes, stubborn as hell.
Well, I can only use myself as an example and think to myself, well, did I struggle? Did I have this cognitive dissonance? Did I put up this fight? No, because I didn't have a bias to defend. I just followed reality and practical physics and accepted what reality showed me. So, we can look for reasons and this, that and the other. I can only look at myself as a benchmark and say, well, I never struggled. The only reason I would have struggled is if I was being dishonest with myself. Ergo, being dishonest with everybody else to be able to maintain a bias contrary to what was actually demonstrated to me. So you can look at it any way you want, whether they're struggling and use fluffy words. No, they have to be being dishonest with themselves. Which
I think they are, but I don't think it's intentional, man. And I would say that there's always probably cases where that could be the case, where they might be intentionally, but I think on the majority, it's not intentional. And that's my opinion on it. But you got to separate yourself. Like you don't bundle yourself up with just everybody. You got a good way of thinking. A good way of not taking of keeping an open mind and stuff, man. And I think that varies, man. I ain't gonna call it a gift or anything, but it kind of is, man. Like
I've never conformed to other people, Brian, because I've never seen anybody worthy of conforming to my whole life. I've never seen any example of something that I could conform to, because it's just not me. So it's very easy for me to walk this path and be the way I am, because why would we follow another man? Man never created this realm. Man's not a god. Man's not responsible for any of this, so why the fuck would I contort and mould myself to follow some other human being? That's just not on in my book. That's just it's not a life experience I've had.
Sure.
So I don't.
I would say like you've been doing this for a minute, and have you found a best approach, or do you just come naturally, or do you think there's how would you go about trying to not necessarily convince somebody, but what's the best way you found to get somebody to think, to open up somebody's mind, to get them contemplating reality? Have you found, and if you have, what's the best approach? What's the best introduction? What's your foot through the door? Let's say, what's the best approach to ask them questions or
Yes,
point stuff out? What would you say?
Socratic method. Ask them questions. Just ask questions. That's it. Just simple. What do you believe? Why do you believe that? What? See that claim that you made? Why are you making that claim? What's it rooted in? Can I see that thing that's rooted that made you make that claim? What brought you to that claim? What surrounded it? What conditions? What practical physics? Just questions. The same as I've always had when I came to this. I lived under an assumption that I never addressed, that the world was this place and it was a globe and it was in space and yada yada. And then I said to myself, right, now I need to ask questions of that assumption. Where did that claim come from? And I'm going to keep asking questions. And as I say, I identified that the equaliser for me is practicality. Because, if it's practical and it's real and it's rooted in something real, then I can demonstrate it to myself. Then I can comprehend it. Then I don't need to believe anything. So I ask questions of my own assumptions, my own beliefs, my own bias, and then you eradicate those. Look for contradictions. My method's always, can I break it? Can I find a contradiction? Because if I can keep doing that and I come to a point where I don't break it and I can't find a contradiction, then that's the reality that I'm living in.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, and like I said, that's what I meant by it boxes you in. Like, reality is what it is, and so it kind of does. Maybe that's not the best way to put it, but so here's another thing. I think that I didn't really understand growing up and after school and everything, and just in life. I didn't get what inertia really meant. I mean, I knew what it meant, but not as far as defined. Like, I'd have to sit there and stop and think. Okay, inertial or non-inertial, like which is which. It's almost like confusing. But do you think, to me, I would say everybody, if I asked 100 people, what do they think an inertial frame of reference is, I doubt that maybe any more than 10 would be able to answer that, man. Just normal people or even flat earthers. Do you think they understand what an inertial frame is? It's simple once you know, but
No.
I don't think it's common knowledge, man.
No, the majority of flares, are just in a cult mindset. Where they've never progressed, they've never understood physics, they don't understand the terminologies, they don't comprehend what the globe Earth's actually claiming, they don't comprehend their own model and what they're claiming. The majority of flares these days are really dumb, unfortunately, Brian. That's my experience of it. They're either dumb or they're willfully ignorant, which to me is just the same thing. It's a display of dumb.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd necessarily agree with that. I respect your point of view and everything, but I don't think willful ignorance is the same as dumb. I think it's more of a mechanism in our minds, man. I think it's some kind of block in our minds, like because just thinking about myself, that's why I promise myself to keep open mind no matter what. I'm gonna always leave a little bit of room for the possibility I'm wrong, no matter what, no matter how sure I am of something. But once again, that's where reality starts boxing me in.
But that's a given. But that's a given, Brian, for me, that you remain open, and that's exactly where I'm, as I've attested to so many times. I only go with the practical. Now, the practical shows me what it shows me. Now, I've still got these other claims which are not matched by the practical, but yet I'm still open, saying to them, right, okay, I'm hearing your claim, can you demonstrate it? Can you demonstrate it? And all I get's the runaround, all I get's wriggling and squirming and avoidance and obfuscation, name calling. The very fact that I'm here with this open panel that I've had for 10 years shows you that I'm open to the discussion.
Yeah, that's important to me. That's important is if you are open to dialogue with other people. Like, I'm getting to where any channel, if there's no way to contact these people to have any type of dialogue, it's almost to me a waste of time. And there are more and more platforms open to discussion, but you've been one for a long time. I've always appreciated that, Del. But I was going to say that's what I told myself. I recognize myself every now and then in discussions with Globers and everything, like dodging questions. And that's kind of what opened my mind back up. Is like, I don't mean to sound like I'm believing in the globe, because I don't at all. But as far as just learning stuff goes, I've noticed myself dodging questions, man. And I'm like, why? I had to stop and think, why am I, obfuscating this question? Why can't I just give a direct damn answer? And that's when I started looking into stuff, and that's where I realized that's was 99% of the time where I was unlearned, and I was lacking some type of knowledge, and I should have noticed it sooner. Why am I dodging this question? It's because I'm avoiding being honest with myself, as you would call it, or being willfully ignorant. And I think that's the first indication. So anybody out there who's scared to answer simple ass questions, it's probably because you've got some kind of mental block going, or
it's a bias.
Willfully ignorant, quote unquote.
That's a bias. I think the majority of flares, what happens to them is that they cotton onto one aspect of the topic, and immediately encamp themselves in the flat earth side of the dichotomy, and from that moment on, all they identify themselves as being in that camp, and that the globe earthers are just all liars and this, that and the other, and any question that's put to them, they don't comprehend it because they don't do the work to comprehend it. I spoke about this, way at the beginning. Don't be scared. If you're scared to go and look at the globe model and comprehend it, then there's something wrong. Why are you doing that? Right? And if you're going to engage in the discussion, make sure that you comprehend the model, and that you comprehend the model that you're defending. There's no point to any of it. But they fall into this mentality of us v them, and that's what traps them. So they don't listen to a globe earther who's making valid points to them. Like I've witnessed, like I witnessed I witnessed Dave Flat Earth, Dave, what's his name, the globe guy, Professor Dave. And he put, but listen, I mean, he put a simple point to Whatsit, which was, well, when I let the pen go, it's less dense above the pen, so why doesn't the pen rise upwards? Simple little things like that a flat earther who's honest should be sitting thinking to themselves and saying, that's an interesting point. Why doesn't the pen move towards the least dense area when it's moving towards the more dense area? That's a valid point. Maybe I should contemplate that. But they don't, because they're filled with mantras that Professor Dave's just a shill, he's just a globe earth shill, and this, that and the other. So they overlook the aspects of what people are putting to them, and they make themselves look ridiculous and don't do themselves any justice by acting like that, because they should be contemplating it, because it's a valid point to put across.
Right. That's what I asked the guy I was talking to last night. I was like, as far as that goes, we can rule it out being just density and buoyancy, but density and buoyancy is very important, and that obviously governs what we see and how things work. But here's how I would have answered this a few years back, Dollars. I would have said that, and I would have been wrong, but I would have said that you lifted the pen up. So I would have said that you gave it energy, right?
Right.
By lifting it up. And like I said, now that I've thought it through, I realized that that's ridiculous.
Yep.
You don't give something energy, you know what I'm saying?
No, energy's a concept of motion. But the thing about that is, Brian, if I reach over to my table, and I know I'm putting this out just as an example, no because I'm looking for you to respond, but if I reach out and pick my lighter up from the table and I bring it up to here so it's in front of me, that's a diagonal vector that I've taken it from. So why doesn't the lighter go back to the table where it was in the first place?
Exactly. And just because I gave it energy, it's still, if it's density and buoyancy, it would still go up, because it's going to go toward the less dense medium. That's how I kind of fought out of that logically. But I wasn't at that stage though, so I'm trying to remember all my answers and stuff to questions,
And this is what I've been trying to highlight for flat earthers for all this time. This sort of dishonesty, and trying to show compassion and say, listen, I'm trying to engage with you to show you it. I'm not claiming the Earth's a globe. I'm not in the camp of globe Earth. I'm trying to address these people who are claiming that they're after truth, and I'm trying to express it to them. Well, if you're after truth, you need to comprehend your own claims. and how absurd they are. And when the globe earthers are asking you questions, simple questions that fly in the face of your position, you're just ignoring it, or hand wave dismissing it, or ad hoc in some irrational explanation to try and pacify it. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous.
There are legitimate questions to be asked, man. Like
Aye.
with the globe, like I was even coming from the point of BS arguments that so if the globe has an explanation and you don't agree with it, that's where the argument should come from. But a lot of a while back I would bring up arguments that really weren't valid because I just didn't know their explanations, and but I quickly learned the explanations, and I don't agree with them all. And the ones that are demonstrably wrong, that's the ones that we should focus on more as far as debate globers.
So that's what I done. Again, and if you're no scared and you actually go and comprehend what they're claiming, that's when flat earthers should be realising that if you listen to a globe earther, when I let the accelerometer go and you listen to a globe earth explanation, and then side by side I ask a stationary flat earther and they give me an explanation, it's the exact same thing that they're claiming. So if you done the work,
it's the same thing. It literally is the same thing in essence.
And if you done that work, you would have questioned the globe to realise the absurdity of their claim, ergo eradicating any sort of irrational notion that you would have had about a stationary earth with downwards acceleration. But they don't do that. They think they're opposed to the globe earth and that they're on some other side of the fence, when in reality they're sitting there claiming the exact same thing. Now that tells you that they've never been honest with themselves and they've never comprehended both the globe model and the stationary flat model, which is very alarming to me and should be ringing bells in people's minds about what the fuck's actually going on here. Because I would dread to think that any of these flat earthers get to, airtime on some mainstream thing, and these questions are put to them. What do you think's going to happen if it goes in a mainstream TV just in that point, buoyancy and density? Well, it's less dense above the object, why does it not move up to the less dense area? If that question's put out there to the vast majority of the world, the vast majority of the world's going to go, oh aye, that's a valid point. That means that the flat earthers are wrong.
Yeah. Anybody who's not in the debate and not stone set on a side. But I'm gonna say this. I've been. You give me a lot of time, and I think Extricate. He might be waiting to say something. Yep. He might be waiting politely, and then another person joined Debro. But I was gonna hang around if that's okay, Del. But give them a chance to question you.
Anybody can pipe in at any moment. What's up?
Sorry to disturb you. I'm here to rob you blind. Do you £15 or 20?
Right, I'll let you chat. Just now I'm just going to go here. I'll be back in a wee couple of minutes, right? I'll just switch my mic off. Just carry on, whatever you're up to.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I would recommend. Anybody out there, if you want to have a legitimate open mind, if you want to follow my path, which I still try to, remain constant open mind, I would say, just focus on the questions that you don't answer, the ones you won't answer directly, because there's 99% of the time a reason you're dodging that question. And even if we have a bias, we can still acknowledge within our own minds that, hey, I obfuscated or I didn't answer directly. I might have had a good counterpoint, but why didn't I answer that question directly? And there's usually a reason behind that. And it's because there's something we're ignoring, a part of reality we might be ignoring, Every question should be able, there might be an explanation to go with it. There should be an easy answer to any direct question. And I don't mean that when it comes to baited questions or something like that, but just direct, straightforward questions we should have a straight, direct, forward answer. I think that's the fine line, man. Debro.
Brian, can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe in pulling forces?
Definitionally, to distinguish, I'd say yes, but technically speaking, I'd say no. So I would say verbally, or definitively, I would say there is a difference to if I'm explaining something to you. I'd say that'd be the only difference would be explicative. As far as the force itself goes, I don't see what would be different about pulling and pushing. To me, they basically be the same when it comes to physics. What's your answer?
I would say there's definitely a difference. I mean, I would say that pulling forces don't exist. It's all just applied pressure. I mean, even if you just sit and really think it through, how you open a door, or you know pull is like just a term that we use to describe direction. Like the direction that we're pushing something, right? We use the term pull instead of push. So excuse me, I would say I pulled the door open, right? Like, so that the person I'm communicating with knows that I brought it towards myself, if that makes sense. But ultimately,
Yeah, it does.
when it comes down to it, it's just applied pressure, if
Just
that
pressure.
makes
That's
sense.
a good way to explain it. It's just pressure, basically.
Yeah.
People are going to bring up magnets, like how you could repel something with a
Yeah.
magnet. But even then, it's still just a pressure,
It's
right?
not the same thing. It's not the same thing. Dell's better at explaining the magnetics than I am. But the reason why I brought it up to you was because I actually listened to your conversation that you had with that percentage guy, and how y'all were kind of talking about gravity and all these different possibilities as far as what we see, in reality, the effects we see in reality. And I remember at one point you were talking about how, I think you said, well, uh, the only other possibility could be that there would have to be a pulling force, right? And I understand, why you were going through that with them or whatever. But my thing is like, if we're trying to get through to people, right? We're trying to get people to see objective truth, then I would say it's probably better not to even suggest that there are any possibilities of pulling forces if there aren't pulling forces in physics. It's sort of like saying, well, there's, I guess, another possibility for what we see could be, maybe there's a unicorn, that the earth is sitting on, and that unicorn's flying the earth around. Well, we know unicorns don't exist. They're just made up fantasy, right? So why even put that possibility in somebody's mind? It seems like it would be better to just say, look, pulling forces don't exist, and just stand on that objective truth, instead of, allowing them to go on thinking that that's a possibility when it isn't. And I
Yeah,
don't think it's
that's
helpful
right.
them, if that makes any sense. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not
it does. It
attacking you
does.
or anything. That was just my point of view on what I heard of the conversation, which was a great conversation, by the way.
Yeah, it was. I appreciate you. So you said his name and everything, and I do believe that percentage has an open mind. Let me ask you, from what you heard, okay, and maybe if you have prior knowledge, just try and throw that out. I don't know if that's possible, but from what you heard last night, what camp would you say percentage is in as far as his thoughts? Like, um, I was trying to get him to open up his mind, but what camp do you think he's in as far as the way it all works?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure, because I only listened to the conversation once, and there were a few
Right.
times that I was kind of distracted with some other things. So there were little bits, pieces here and there that I kind of missed.
Yeah.
But it just seemed to me like he was just kind of going with the conversation.
Yeah, yeah, he
Like maybe
was.
he wasn't, like, because I know at one point, y'all were talking about, well, if there was a pulling force to the center of the earth, it would have to be, like, I remember at one point, you were talking about, well, we would have all this matter would still be around us, so that matter would still be crushing us, right? Or would it have weight, or would it not have weight? Would we have weight at the center? Would we not? So it just
Yeah.
seemed to me like it was more him kind of going along with the conversation.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of
Let me
hard
let,
for me to tell
let
where
me
he stood.
Let me clarify real quick. I really don't know
Yeah,
where.
yeah,
Just so you, I'm not exactly sure where he stands. That's what I was asking. Like, if I knew his
yeah,
stance, I'm almost glad I didn't know his stance because I was able to just ask fair, general questions instead of directed, targeted questions. But then again, if I'm trying to open up somebody's mind, it would have helped if I knew his stance. But that's why I was saying I do believe he's an open-minded guy. But did you see? Did you hear the parts where he was kind of shutting it down when I was explaining accelerations and how we can detect absolute acceleration, like vertically, horizontally? Like he's like, well, no, let's just talk about up and down. And then I actually kind of did say what Dell suggested, but in my own way. But did you? I mean, did you see his brain kind of even an open-minded guy like that was kind of shutting down possibilities and reality in a way? Did you notice that?
yeah. He kind of seems like he has his own beliefs, his own stance, and he's kind of stuck in that. And but another thing that I noticed was like maybe y'all were talking past each other a little bit, and he was maybe trying getting a little confused at what you were trying to explain to him, or what like the visual you were trying to put in his mind. He was getting a little confused with what you were trying to say. But sort of like when you were explaining how, well, you could not, it would not be possible to set an accelerometer at zero on the earth. You were trying to explain that, and he was fighting you on it. So I think at points he was like really kind of confused at what you were trying to say, but also stuck in what he believes, whatever that is, because I couldn't really make heads or tails exactly where he stands.
Or me
But yeah,
neither.
that's kind of what I noticed. So
And I'll say this, like I feel like I come up with a good way to explain because I think you'd agree. Percentage is to me a intelligent guy. I don't know how intelligent, but he's not a dumbass. He seems to be pretty open minded. But with the accelerometer, like I said, I thought that at one point too. Not for very long, but I did contemplate that, and I use that as reason. Like it's just the way. That's what I told myself. Is it's just the way it's calibrated. But then when I actually gave it honest thought and thought of the ramifications of that, then I quickly realized that's impossible. But I think I come up with an interesting way that if we set the accelerometer at zero on the ground, then that's equal to accelerating in a different direction. So then we would have to accelerate to get back to zero. You, so what would be halfway? Like, so what if you've got an acceleration half of 9.8 meters per second squared? There's nothing between zero and zero, so it can't possibly be calibration. You can't set it at zero on the ground because there's nothing between zero and zero. There's no halfway point, so an accelerometer would be useless. But I thought it was, but yeah, it took a minute. But then Jen did join at the end and said that he agreed with me at the end. He's like, yeah, there's no point between zero and zero. It couldn't work like that. So I wonder what Jen's stance is, to be honest.
yeah, I'm not going to take up the whole conversation. I know there's several other people in here. I just wanted to jump in real quick and bring up the whole pulling force thing because, like I said, I just don't think it's a good idea to,
Right.
suggest that that's even a possibility when we know there's no pulling forces in physics. I don't think that that's going to help anybody to get to the objective truth of what's being shown with the demonstration. So that's just my point of view on it.
That's good hindsight.
You
Very good hindsight.
Good to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining and pointing that out. I was tickled to death, and I've been obviously talking a lot too. So I'm gonna open up the floor to anybody, unless they're just listening. But I'm gonna shut up for a second. Thank you for joining. Thank you for bringing that up. It was a great conversation. I thought so too. Since nobody else piped up, I'll elaborate a little bit on that. Like that is good hindsight about the pulling forces and stuff. And sometimes it could get bogged down. If I'd have brought that up, then we might have had an hour-long conversation about push and pull and stuff. But it does kind of narrow down to that. So it is right over the target. But yeah, it does get aggravating. I feel I feel Dell's frustration sometimes, but I gotta disagree with him, like on the one thing that I don't think it's people being stupid or deceptive. I mean, he does say like the willful ignorance. I don't know if I'd agree with that. I think it's just some kind of mental block, man. It's it is a bias.
Well, the thing is,
bias.
but Brian, but you can't generalise that everybody's that way, and I'm not generalising that everybody's willfully ignorant. I'm talking to those who have been coming and listening to what's being said and still go over and over the same things and still come back with the same responses. That's what I mean by willful ignorance and being evasive. I'm not generalising that every single person's dumb or, you know, that's just not the case. The same as you can't generalise and say that everybody just has like a mental block. I mean, you're not that naive, Brian. You know there's people here who are you know, actively trolling and trying to obfuscate and derail the whole discussion. You know? So it's just
Thank you for clarifying, man. Thank you for clarifying, because I was scratching my head on that one a little bit, Dill. Yeah, I have to agree. Yeah, there's definitely some people willfully ignorant. If you've seen the reality of it, you've heard the counterpoints and everything enough to understand it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. That's exactly willful ignorance.
Yeah.
So thank you for clarifying.
2 seconds. Sorry, 2 seconds.
That's why I can't forget freaking Flato's answer. Like, he's good. I'll give him that. Like, that was the best obfuscation I ever heard in my life at the beginning of y'all's conversation. I'm not trying to dog on Flatoid, man, but it's funny. But for him to come up with impulse, which it was just like, oh my God, how the hell did he think of that? Like, kind of on the spot. Impulse. What the hell kind of answer is that? But I would say if Flatoid listened, you know, I don't want to upset him and shit. I got nothing against anybody personally and everything. But yeah, he man, if you can't answer a question directly, man, then you gotta open your eyes a little bit. That was funny. Impulse. That's like insanely genius at the same time. Right?
But as I say, people with Flatoid, you know, they still want to act like they don't. They point the finger and say that Dell's the one claiming globe Earth rhetoric, and you're trying to highlight and say, no, you're claiming uniform acceleration of gas liquids and solids without displacement, Flatoid. That's a globe Earth claim. That matches identically what the globe Earth's claiming, which is a contrary claim to practical physics. So, you know, he just doubles down, because people at Flatoid, I would say, are the ones who have succumbed to their own ego, have succumbed to peer pressure, that being that they've formulated a little cult group and following, and they've made these statements and now feel that they cannot go back on them for fear of losing face. So I think it's all ego based with people at Flatoid. You know, again, I try to have a discussion with Flatoid, you know, and lay out first principles about this discussion, that being, let's agree upon what force is. And I get the runaround for 2 hours that force is its own thing, that matter has an inherent aspect within it known as force, the ability to move, impulse. You know, they wanted to argue that energy was a thing separate from matter, like its own entity. You know, people like that really are dumb. And I'm not going to be ashamed to say that, because I've spent time trying to engage with them, and they laugh and they scoff at rational practicality. Like, you know, energy. Well, what's energy? Energy is defined through a mathematical equation as such and such, right? So is energy an entity in its own right? Yes. Where is it? Isolate it and show me it. I mean, how can you deal with that? How can that not be highlighted as willfully dumb and Dunning-Kruger? I mean, I don't know how else I can categorise that sort of behaviour.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. But I do believe he even in Flatoid's case, I wouldn't say he's dumb, man. I'd say stubborn. I would say that yeah, man, that's borderline, Dell. I'd have to agree. Like, that's right on the border of being willfully ignorant. But I do think he believes what he says, you know. But impulse, brother.
Well,
Impulse. Like, who the hell thinks of that? That was crazy, dude.
a 5-year-old believes that in what they say when they claim that Santa Claus exists at the North Pole and has flying reindeer. So, I mean, does that get them a buy? I mean, I don't know.
Dude, you can't be dumb and work your way out of a corner with freaking impulse, dude, at the same time. Dude, that takes creativity to think of an answer that freaking is like ridiculously freaking. Oh my god.
Right. I don't think Plasso is dumb at all. Like I don't really watch him, to be honest. I only saw the video Dal made. Some of his followers seem like complete fucking morons, but Plasso himself seems pretty savvy. So, I mean, has he joined a fellowship, a cult of sorts? Who the fuck knows? Who cares, to be honest? But yeah, I mean, if you even a know nothing like me can understand relative motion, so I think there's something more going on.
Mm. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Andy. When you first heard about it, you had to, you got a skeptical type of mind, so you had to think to the contrary. So, what was your initial thoughts, before taking a deep dive into it? What was your initial thoughts on, like, shutting it down, for lack of better words? Like for me, it was, let me example it so you know. So for me, it was the calibration thing. I thought about clouds and stuff, and I quickly threw that out. Like, that's ridiculous, But at first, the thought pops in your mind. You got to contemplate the whole scenario. But for me, it was the calibration thing, then it was the speed thing, like it would be past the speed of light, and just all these roadblocks. Did you have any, like, what were your logical roadblocks that you had to get through logically, or illogical roadblocks? Let me say.
I'm not 100% what you're asking, Brian, but if you're talking about what Dell's put forward, then yeah, the key to it for me was this loss of momentum. As soon as I understood that, then it all just clicked into place, and I was like, oh, right, I see exactly what he's seeing. It fit the observations, and I was like, and then, all the dots started to connect.
Let me tell you what I think, man, real quick. Is when I first heard about this, I went and I seen a video about when I first heard about flat Earth and everything, and first opened up my mind to reality. I seen a Flat Earth Society video, and it's ridiculed a lot about the upward rising Earth and all that stuff. But to me, the way the guy put it, he was explaining relativity and how it is. He demonstrated thoroughly that it is an acceleration. Period. It's an upward acceleration. And that was one of the key points that
Brian, sorry,
really intrigued me, man. It intrigued me, like, dude, that can't work on a globe. Like
Brian,
that. And everybody ridiculed it after that.
I wanted to just cut in, Brian. Sorry for being ignorant, because I was asking that very same question, which went unanswered for me for years. What was it that brought the Flat Earth Society to have the position of the Earth's upwards motion? Do you know what it was based upon, Brian?
Yeah.
What?
Relativity, the equivalence principle.
But what tests did they do? What was their physical examples?
I forgot.
See, that's the thing, because it was never documented when I went to look. There was never any practical valid explanations or demonstrations given for why that position was held, which makes me suspicious of them actually claiming it in the first place. If they're going to claim it, you'd think they would at least have laid out the reasoning behind the claim. To say relativity doesn't cut it, because I could have watched the equivalence principle, and there's nothing from the equivalence principle that I would have said lays out any sort of practical demonstration to justify the position. So if the Flat Earth Society were claiming it, my question would be, what was it rooted in? What was their reasoning for making the claim? Because I haven't found one.
Let me ask you a question. Is that video still around?
I
tried to find it, but couldn't find it, because what you just asked, I was curious what it was, but I remember that was the main thing that, to me, that was the best argument he had. And then I joined Flat Earth, and it's been so long I forgot, but to me that was like the nail in the coffin. Like, wow, dude,
but when you
couldn't work on a globe, and that is what I don't
Aye,
remember why I thought that.
but when you
So
hear the
I remember that video.
but when you hear the equivalence principle, that's what I'm saying. You can say, right, all right, so that it could be that it's the Earth's motion. Ah, right, well that makes sense. But
That's a common misconception, though, Dale.
but that's what I'm saying. But then I would have to ask myself, right, well, what tests could I do to see if that was the case? Which is what I'm asking about the Flat Earth Society. What tests, what practical steps would they have taken to come to the conclusion that it was the Earth's upward velocity? Other than just listening to the equivalence principle, because there's no practical testing through that.
Well, that's what McToon said. He's and a lot of all these anti-flat earthers are literally spreading disinformation, saying that it's like the same thing. No, it is the same thing. You don't say 2 plus 2 is like 3 plus 1.
Yeah.
No, they're both fucking 4. Like
Well,
I'm saying.
Well, see how.
The equivalence principle states that it is an acceleration.
Yes, but Brian, I watched your video this morning, and for me, I noted, and I was going to leave a comment and say that. Why did you not leave the end portion in when they try and give the globe explanation? Because if you leave that bit in, I think that's quite telling about what they're actually trying to claim.
Yeah, you're right. I did put that in a previous one, but yeah, I was trying to condense it, dude. It's so hard to condense information like that, man. But I did put it in a previous video. The way they explain it, why they say why the world doesn't break off into 100 pieces, is because space-time bending.
Yes.
I've got a whole spiel on that.
Because
I think you're gonna like.
Because that's the clarity part for what they're actually claiming, which is, it's not a linear motion that they're claiming. They're claiming that it's an internal pressure of the globe Earth and that space-time is warping around it, causing things to follow a geodesic path towards the centre of the Earth. And when the object reaches the Earth, it's the Earth's internal pressure that causes the resistance. They're not actually claiming a linear motion, which is why...
Well, relativity, I know they're not, Del, but relativity mathematically absolutely does claim it.
Yeah.
You can't, there's no way of interpreting the math. The math is the math.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Mathematically, an acceleration.
If you leave that latter part in of that, the sky is falling upwards, they're concise and they're accurate right up until the very point where they introduce it as a globe Earth, and that's what makes it clear for people to see that it's total gibberish, because again,
bro, genius though. That's exactly right. And that, like I said, I forgot exactly what the guy pointed out, but it reached me. And to me, when I joined, I was like, why are these? I don't remember thinking it for long, but I remember thinking, why are these people dogging the Flat Earth Society? Like, that was a great video, and it was like, they're saying they're stationary. Then I figured it was just religion and all that. But to me, that's the number one argument. That's the nail in the coffin that demolishes the globe and takes it to fantasy land, like you just said, like the explanation. And so no wonder McToon puts it on, instead of explaining it really, he obfuscates, pins it off on the Flat Earth Society, and next thing you know, everybody in Flat Earth is saying, yeah, the Flat Earth Society, that's stupid psyop shit up where, like, wait a minute.
Because
that's arguing within fucking modern physics, whether you agree with it or not. That's a globe killer.
Because people,
any way you look at it,
people like McToon and the globe earthers, they don't want to accept that theirs is based on circular reasoning from a presupposition. So they have an optical interpretation. They witness a change, right? But that's fine to say you witness a change, but the claim goes further when they claim that there's an actual acceleration. That's their point. The McToons and that are YouTube are just as dishonest as each other. They don't want to engage in this discussion because there's visual interpretation of phenomena and there's actual motion of matter, which is two different things. And flat earthers should comprehend that, because flat earthers are quite quick to point out things like, yes, the horizon's apparent, or train tracks converging is apparent, it's a visual phenomena, right? But then at the very same turn, they want to jump to an optical drop test, which is purely visual interpretation, and try and utilise that as claim of actual acceleration. So both camps are as contradictory and hypocritical as each other, as far as I'm concerned right now.
I'm getting to start to think the same way, man. But I always try to, from now on, I'm always trying to start this conversation off with Globers or flat earthers alike. It's the inertial frame. So we got to start with a frame of no pressure, whatever you got to think, whether it be free fall, whether it be if you could conceive in the middle of space or whatever it is. I want to start this conversation from a point where there's no pressure, there's no displacement, and then go from there. What causes this displacement that we see happening at rest, and is your claim going against, like, is your, like, Newtonian to me goes against that inertial frame to claim Newtonian physics, like a lot of Globers do, is putting the inertial frame at the ground and saying that gravity's pulling you down and the Earth's pushing up equally. That would make the inertial frame the ground, and that don't work. So I'd like to know the real reason. Why can't they be honest and tell us the real reason they had to think beyond Newtonian mechanics? Because it fails at a fundamental level. I understand the math and all that works, but at a fundamental level, the inertial frame has got to be the frame with no displacement, no pressure from any direction, and that should be common knowledge. It isn't, man, to me.
But if you're taking the inertial frame as that, you can say the inertial frame is something that's in a constant, steady velocity, which would be inertial to us within it, because there's no change, there's no acceleration happening. But that's lending to their notions of vacuums and stuff, Brian. So again, that's why I brought up the aspect of inertia earlier. If you claim an inertial frame, that being stationary or in a constant velocity, there would be no displacement, there would be no sorting out. I would disagree with that, because from my postulation, and I'm just putting this out there, the motion of the Earth's a demonstrable constant, but there's an opposition to that constant, which is inertia. So we have two constants opposed to each other. So within an inertial frame, that being in a constant velocity, there's still the displacement happening, because matter has another factor to it, which is its inertia.
Yeah, man. So we have a different. I 100% agree, and I'm still working this out in my mind. But I would think that in my mind, if something's in motion, it's not going to move forever. To me,
No, but that's
inertia would make it eventually stop. Maybe it is going to, but
right. But that's my point, Brian. In special relativity, they're invoking a vacuum, and they're operating on the principles of a vacuum, right? That's the problem. If you're going to keep,
I'm coming to the conclusion that in a
no,
vacuum,
listen,
you can't have
listen, Brian.
at the same time.
Listen, Brian, if you are going to invoke special relativity and talk about it, right, people need to comprehend what their axioms are. Now, when they're invoking that, whether you're in an inertial frame of reference that's stationary or in constant velocity, right, that means that within that frame of reference, matter, everything about it is surrounded by a vacuum, nothingness, right? Because
That's a hell of a good point, dude.
well, that's their assumption. That's what I'm saying. If you're going to invoke that, then you're reasoning from their position. But you can't argue from that position, because you have to look at what.
I'm definitely reasoning from their position, bro.
Well,
I'm trying to reason from their position.
Well, that's what I'm clarifying. I'm clarifying that that's special relativity, inertial frame of reference, whether it's in constant velocity or stationary, right? And there would be no displacement. That's why they'll say things like it has to keep accelerating in order to keep you on the ground, right? But what they're arguing from a position of surrounding a medium of a vacuum. Now, I don't claim that, because to me there's inertia of matter, which means there is some other medium prevalent. Call it an ether, call it whatever you like. My axiom doesn't start from theirs, which is vacuums. That's what they're reasoning from when they talk about the inertial frame of reference. Do you understand?
The point I come with, Dale, is I think we could logically eliminate the possibility of a perfect vacuum even in our minds, and in reality, is think of a plunger.
No.
How much force can we
No.
How much force can we press on the plunger? There's
I
no
mean,
limit, right? So
it's a given. It's Brian. We don't need to talk about vacuums. It's a given that there's no pure vacuum anywhere in the natural world. It's nature abhors a vacuum, right? But their reasoning, their mathematical propositions, begins from that axiomatic place, Right?
That's it.
Right? That's what I'm saying. So when you're talking about that and talking about inertial frames of reference, if people are going to argue about the motion of the Earth in regards to that, they're taken under the assumption from that position of matter will stay in motion unless acted upon by another fucking force, right? So in their position, if it was a vacuum surrounding us, there would be nothing to resist it, so you would have to have constant acceleration to keep giving us what we call weight. But from my position, I argue the point that no, there's another aspect of reality that we attribute to matter that gives the matter inertia. So we're not talking.
No.
So
I gotta stop. If you're thinking about mathematically, then you're thinking about conceptually. So let me ask you this question real quick, so I know where you stand. So just because we can't make a perfect vacuum, we can perceive it. We can conceive it in our mind, and we can do it mathematically.
yes.
So what if we could create if there was a perfect vacuum? Do you think matter would move forever
But
in a perfect vacuum?
Brian, you can conceive of a globe. But Brian, you can conceive of a globe Earth and all other manner of nonsense through through mathematics. That's just a language, right? It's a descriptor. It doesn't explain anything. You can make any world as long as your mathematics descriptions match and work mathematically. Maths describes, it doesn't explain, right? So the point I was making is hopefully that you comprehend, and anybody else listening is comprehending that when I say the Earth's moving, you get people saying it has to constantly accelerate because look, when I accelerate laterally, you need constant acceleration in order to have that vector and the push against you, yada yada, right? The globe Earth are arguing and talking from a position that matter will stay in motion unless acted upon by blah 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 blah. So when you look at the special relativity, right? I'm explaining that they're taking their axiom from that position of a vacuum, right? I don't need to, I can imagine it in my mind. That's fine. I'm just laying out what they're arguing from and what they're talking about. Now,
I get it. Trust me, I'm not giving you contention on that. But I was just asking, in your mind, after you conceive it, do you think things would move if we put something in motion at a constant rate? Do you think it would move forever if we could create a perfect vacuum?
if there was such a thing as a perfect vacuum, no medium, nothing to cause inertia, no resistance, then of course, why would it not continue to move?
I don't know. I just feel like it would. Lose its momentum, man.
How?
My thought on it.
But that's fine. That's fine, Brian. But what would cause it to lose its momentum?
And the way I think of inertia.
Listen. So stop. What is inertia then in that type of model? If we were to play, and I'm speaking to Brian, and Brian's, we're talking about vacuums, and in the vacuum I put an object into motion. Now in that fantasy world, Brian, what would you attribute as inertia? What would be the cause of the object slowing down?
I don't know.
Nothing. There has to be an external factor.
Yeah, I gotta contemplate that because I can't think of an answer.
Because there isn't one, unless you're going to say the matter decides to stop itself.
Well, you say that things have weight on their own. So
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Okay, you don't. Okay, gotcha. So if two things bump into each other, hold on, let me think. So if two things.
No, if there's only one, no, stop. Let's simplify it. If we're in this vacuum, this perfect vacuum that we're imagining, and there's, say, a ball in this vacuum, and I now push the ball, and I give it a velocity of 5 miles per hour, the ball continues to travel at 5 miles per hour. If there's nothing else in that vacuum, why would the ball slow down?
I don't know, so you believe that the Earth does have to be accelerating then?
No, because there's a...
You say because there's not a perfect vacuum, then it doesn't have to be. I see what you're saying.
No. In my position, there's two constants. There's a constant background field, ether, whatever you want to call it, that gives what we call matter's inertia, that being its resistance to the motion. So
okay, that's a good answer, dude.
Well,
I've been scratching my head ever since you asked me that question. I had no answer at all.
Well, that's why I said, if in the best vacuum that we have on Earth, and I place an object on a scale and I now accelerate the scale with the object on it, what happens to what we call weight? It still increases, correct? So if it's increasing, it's because there's a resistance. Now, what causes the resistance? It can't be the matter itself, because that's like the flatzoids of the world. Matter can spontaneously move on its own. Matter can spontaneously slow down on its own. That's no reality. If it slows down or speeds up, something external's acted upon it. So you, in a vacuum, a true vacuum, and an object in motion would never slow down. It would just continue to move at the same rate that it was given its initial velocity.
But so ether is I believe there's got to be a type of background. That what I was saying is, you couldn't have a perfect vacuum and still have area. I'm saying space, but well, I could say area, whatever. I don't mean deep space, but you can't have area itself and have a perfect vacuum. There'd be nothing there. Like if you pull on a plunger, you can keep pulling harder and harder until the bitch collapses in. And once you've got nothing in there at all, that'd be the point where the plunger collapsed in and did away with that empty space.
So let me, Brian, I just want this. I want this opportunity, because this hopefully should clarify it for people. So when people ask me these questions, they have to comprehend their reasoning, right? So imagine the Earth system now is like a cube, right? And it's moving, right? And we hold an object and we let it go. Now, if you're coming from the position that outside of the Earth realm and through the Earth realm, there's nothing else there, it's like a vacuum at the base root of reality, and matter exists on its own within a vacuum, then if the Earth was moving at a constant rate, that wouldn't work, because I would need constant acceleration in order to maintain what we call weight. You know, so when I let an object go within an Earth system that's surrounded by a vacuum or supported by a vacuum, and I let an object go while we're in that moving object, that frame of reference, then if I let the object go, it would just remain exactly where it was relative to me. You would need the Earth to be constantly getting faster in order to overtake the object that's been disconnected from the Earth. That's if you're coming from the philosophical position that reality is given rise to by a void, a vacuum, a nothingness. But that's not how I see reality function, right?
I can back that up too.
What?
I can back that up. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm trying to clarify so that people understand where they're coming from when they make these points. Am I making that clear? Do people grasp what I'm actually saying?
I do. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll just point out that that's exactly some of the discussions that I've got into with people who are actually, upward rising earthers who still insist, that we're wrong about the constant motion, and they say that it has to be accelerating.
Yeah.
I've questioned one of them on that, and that's exactly what they say they think happens, that when you let the object go, it stops gaining velocity, but it just remains at the velocity you were at when you let it go.
Yeah.
And it continues going in a straight line, and the Earth catches up with it because it's accelerating.
Yes.
So yeah, the way you put that, Del, works really well. They were operating off of a false axiom.
Yeah.
Of something coming from nothing.
Exactly, mate. That's.
And I say that nothing can't exist and has never existed.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. So that to me is the clarity and the highlights that.
Where's the contention though? I'm missing something, man. I gotta stop. I gotta cut in. What's the contention? So, what's the problem with? So you're saying that to you that's a problem that there has to be an acceleration?
No.
Because even if you don't invoke a perfect vacuum, then you're still invoking something being slowed down by friction. I think it works equally well both ways. In my mind, I'm missing something though.
Aye, but Brian, think about this. Go back to your vacuum scenario, right? And in your vacuum, we've got a box, right? And in the box, we've got a ball which is attached to one of the walls of the box. Now that box is put into motion at 100 miles per hour, right? So the box is in a vacuum. The ball's in the vacuum. Inside the box is a vacuum, because that's your background medium, right? Now, if that box is now moving at 100 miles per hour and you release the ball, then there's nothing within the vacuum that would slow the ball down. The ball would remain in its relative position to the box as the box and the ball continue to move at 100 miles per hour. That's why these flat earthers that are talking about upwards velocity are trying to argue that it has to be constantly accelerating, because in the conditions of what I just explained, when the box is released, the ball's released within the box, the only way the base of the box will catch up with the ball is if the box now starts getting faster and faster to catch up with the ball. Do you understand?
Wait, not 100%. So there's a box with a vacuum inside of it, and let's just say a vacuum outside of it.
No, because you're no understanding, Brian. You need a medium.
Can we put the ball in the middle so I understand it a little bit?
Brian, you need to understand, in order to have matter in the first place, there has to be a medium regardless, right? You need a somewhere. So your somewhere is whatever you're going to say it is. So if it's a vacuum, right, that means that matter exists of its own. It's just matter, surrounded by a vacuum, nothing else there. So if we now put the ball inside the box, connected to a wall, and we push the box to 100 miles per hour and it's carrying on its velocity at 100 miles per hour, when the ball's released within that box, there is nothing in there that would cause the ball to slow down and lose its momentum. So it would stay in its relative position to the inside of the box as they both continue the trajectory of 100 miles per hour. Do you understand so far?
Yeah.
Right.
So far,
so
we
Matt,
took the ball off the wall, and now it's traveling at the same rate basically as the box. And yeah, I get it so far.
and if the ball's released, then there's no way that the base of the box is ever going to contact the ball. Do you understand?
Yes, sir. I get it.
And you understand why it's not going to contact the ball?
Right, because there's nothing to make it
Slow down. Yes. So my position is that reality is not founded upon nothingness. Reality is founded upon a something. Now that something gives rise to reality, gives rise to matter, gives it its form, and gives it the property of what we call inertia. It's resistance to motion.
I get it.
So now in that position, you've got this resistance to matter that's holding matter in its form, giving it its shape. Now it's in a system that's now put into motion. Now as that system goes into motion, that resistance continues to be there. You're going to need a constant power source to keep your system in motion, but your system doesn't have to continue. You need to get faster and faster to create what we call the weight and density and yada yada, because resistance is playing a role. So it's a matter now of people understanding their philosophical position, right? So the one philosophical position is that reality is founded upon a nothingness, a void, a vacuum, which to me is preposterous, because we are all experienced beings that know that something causes something that causes something infinitely, or until you come to some prime mover, which is another discussion. So that's my reason, and my reasoning comes from that position of the fact that we're not surrounded by vacuums. A vacuum does not permeate reality and give rise to reality. That's preposterous.
That makes sense now. Now I see exactly what you're saying. Before I wasn't equivocating the ball as being on Earth for some reason. I didn't make that connection, but I get you 100% now. And I would say this, like if somebody can imagine that, think of going at a constant motion. Think of the opposite of what Dell's saying. So think of being like in pudding. If pudding is the medium, and it doesn't matter if you're going at a constant velocity, you're going to feel pressure as you move through that pudding. So what Dell's saying is that you can't have a perfect vacuum. So there's no point in even really bringing that up, because it's physically not possible.
No, it's not a position to hold. It's a nonsense. It allows nonsense like their claims in relativity, and for them to operate from that position.
Yeah, they need it for the model. They absolutely. This is what gave me pause, because it's the old Aristotle idea, isn't it, Dal?
Yeah.
That an object needs to be under a constant force for motion to be there. But the reason it gives me pause is because you're going up against Galileo, Copernicus, Isaac Newton. These are big names, and you're like, it gives you pause, right? It did me anyway. I was like, ugh. I actually asked ChatGPT. I was like, is there any way I could prove that, a an object will continue without, until another force is acting on it. And I'm not joking. It actually offered me air hockey as an example. I'm not even joking.
But in air hockey, we would have friction and it would slow down. I mean,
Well, yeah.
Can I just say that this was basically my point about the pulling forces thing. Like, what's the point in going on about it? Or
yeah.
I mean, I guess it's fine to talk, possibilities and stuff like that. That's fine, to sit and speculate and talk conceptual ideas and stuff like that. But when you're trying to get down to what reality is and what's actually going on, I just think it's better to stick to the objective truth, objective facts, instead of like bringing in possibilities that aren't actually possibilities, like pulling forces.
Yeah. Pulling forces, vacuums, these sorts of notions. Exactly, Amanda. Why are they even entertained? They're preposterous.
Also, Brian had brought up magnetism being like a pulling type force, and I was telling him that it isn't, but I'm not as well informed on magnetism and stuff as Dell is, so I was hoping maybe you might could explain it to him a little better than I could, Dell.
Well, the thing is if Brian's going to say that magnetism's a pulling force, then explain how it works and even draw it for me, like how the mechanisms, how mechanically that would look, because
what I was saying, let me stop you, because what I was saying is that if I'm describing it like verbally, then I could describe it through language as a pull and a push, but ultimately it's still the same thing. It's still the pressure of the magnet doing what it's doing. So to me, I'm not really arguing that point.
So to me, the magnet is causing the field, whatever's there, to flow in a particular direction. So when we see matter being pushed in that direction, that comports to practical reality, where leverage is how things move. So even in a magnet, that's why I'm saying magnetism to me, if somebody wants to take it away from leverage, because that's what causes motion, that's the facts, something pushes something else. If somebody wants to invoke now that there's some kind of notion of pull, what I'm asking then is, what would the mechanisms be? How would that function? Because if you're going to say, well, it's a medium between the magnets which is decompressed or pressurized more, then you're still applying motion to cause a displacement. That's not a pulling force. You're just altering, the medium then. The mechanisms are still going to be the same. The principles of motion are still the same. So what would a pulling force look like? How would you imagine it? How could you draw it or something?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing basically. I don't think there's any difference unless we're just talking about pulling or pushing something. In physics, physically, I think it's the same. Even with a magnet, it's still the same pressure. It's just a different direction of it.
It's pressure mediation.
It is a head scratcher though, man. Magnets in general is like God's comedy or something. Like trying to work it out like it's
Well, I can use pressure.
It feels like magic.
Magic. You know what? A Cartesian diver. I can use pressure to make that change its vector. I can make it go up. I can make it go down or appear to go down. But there's nothing there. It looks to somebody within there, it would be like magic. Oh, look, it's being pulled down. But I know that I'm applying pressure to the medium in order to cause a change. So it's the same with magnetism. It's pressure mediation of whatever that background thing is that people call ether, God, the prime mover, whatever label anybody wants to give it. But the point for me is that how anybody can avoid and ignore that that's the case baffles me. I cannot reason with somebody that wants to start for the philosophical position of avoid. And you see how ridiculous that whole notion gets, from their cosmology to the Big Bang fucking nonsense, how matter came to be. I mean, it's all the same philosophical garbage, nonsense, as far as I'm concerned.
It is, man. It is. It's just conceptual to me. Like, we can write the number 0, but we can never demonstrate it.
Exactly.
Such thing as nothing. Like,
Right.
yeah, I see what you're saying, man. Like me, I don't believe that you could even have reality itself with a void. It would collapse itself. So I don't even let myself even think like that. To me, it's even explained logically with the plunger. To me, to create a perfect vacuum, the plunger would have to collapse in on itself. There's no limit to how hard I can pull on the plunger, and it's never going to be a perfect vacuum. If it ever got that, the plunger would collapse in, and there'd be no space there at all.
No, because the vacuums that we're talking about is trying to evacuate air, but you're not evacuating reality. The reality's still within the vessel. You know, that's the difference.
But I'm still kind of at the stage where my thoughts are contradicting each other, man. I'm just having to notice it, man. So I appreciate the help, pointing out some of my own logical inconsistencies, man. I'm still kind of working it out.
So hopefully you get clarity now in what the globers are arguing from, and some of these flat earthers when they talk about the frames of reference, because that has to be understood, that they're assuming and starting from the position of voids, vacuums. Hopefully that's clear.
I definitely come when I mean you obviously notice it, but I definitely try and argue from within the people's beliefs and shit, and try and see where the problems are, recognize the forks in the road within their own reasoning.
Well, that's why when you asked me earlier, how I approach things, because for me everything has roots. And if I keep asking questions from the branches of the tree, eventually I'm going to get to where it's rooted, and that's the process for me continually. That's how you start to comprehend their whole position, because it's the if you get to the roots of it, then you can comprehend what exactly they're coming from.
But even then, you got to kind of recognize, like when people question, then you got some people who are answering it and thinking that they're teaching you something. So I think you gotta recognize that, like they're preaching to you, like from a place of certainty, man. And I think that's a thing to look out for when you're dealing with that type of person. Like I think you gotta go a little bit past just the question. Yeah, it's gotta all start with the question. Because
that's what I was saying earlier. Globe earthers of the world don't comprehend their own model, their own worldview. They don't know what it's founded upon. They don't know the basis of any of it. They're arguing from positions of the branches of it. And because they can remember and regurgitate aspects from that's they're just continuing to talk past each other, because nobody gets to first principles. What is your position rooted in? Let's get to the grounds and the roots, the bare bones of it. Then that means we're never going to talk past each other at the branches further up the tree. So,
Yeah, but I don't see a problem though. Like I don't know if you do or not, but I personally don't see a problem with discussing it as an acceleration. To me, the part with the deceleration, that's like a next level. If I'm arguing with them, that would be almost like obfuscation of the point that I'm trying to get across. I don't see no problem with arguing within the frame of calling it an acceleration and whatnot, even if that's not the way I feel.
Well,
they understand what I'm saying. What do you think about that?
I mean, the main point for me is that this is why everybody forgets that the main premise of this is the claim of downwards acceleration. So when we test and we find there is no downwards acceleration, and that it demonstrates that the force is acting upwards relative to us, then that's where we start. The rest of it, as I've said and put out there before, the actual full motions of what is going on is unknowns to me at this moment in time, because I'm still in the process of endeavouring and keeping looking to what's going on and asking questions, which I hope everybody else gets to. But I don't want to have to keep coming back to arguing about downwards acceleration, because we should be past that. So whether we're in an accelerated frame of reference and it's doing some sort of loop on an arm, or whether it's some sort of centrifuge, or whether it's actual just linear indefinite motion, or whether it's in a huge ellipsoid, or whether it's doing a figure of 8. I mean, there's all manner of possibility, but for me the discussion is not even getting to that point, because people are still trying to argue that there's downwards acceleration. So it's all up there for discussion, Brian. I'm not fully set on anything other than the facts that are demonstrable.
Yeah.
But I do comprehend that if somebody's coming at me and asking questions like, well, what's causing the object in the ground to meet, there must be an acceleration of the reference frame. It has to keep getting faster and faster. Then it has to be clarified. You're arguing from the position of a vacuum. You're not arguing from the position that matter has inertia, which is a factor you would have to account for in the reality. You know, it's that simple. Or am I talking Swahili? I don't know. I've got no.
Hey, sorry, I had to step away for a second, Joe. I need a minute, man. But I heard just about all that, man.
Cool.
I think it's kind of ironic that some of the people that, even amongst flat earthers who are like particle guys, you know, light is a particle, gas particles, this and that. It's very ironic that they're actually, whether they want to admit it or not, supporting kind of like a smaller scale globe narrative. They're saying that these particles just exist within nothing.
Yes.
You know, but then they'll turn around out of the other side of their mouth and say a globe can't exist within a vacuum. But okay, so what's in between these gas particles you're talking about?
Bang on, mate. You know? Bang on, exactly, and that highlights again where they're arguing from, and they don't even realise it, mate. You know, everybody's seen them. You know, like these flat earthers trying to explain gas, and they'll draw gas as little dots. And I asked that question of conspiracy cats years ago. What's between your fucking dots, mate? Nothing. You know. So bang on, mate. 100%. What response did you get?
Oh, the typical, you know, it's obfuscate and shift the goalpost and just kind of you know, change the topic away from that. Or you know, we you know, assume the burden of proof. We shouldn't have to explain it or you know whatnot. So.
Aye. But it does highlight, doesn't it, that you know, where they're actually arguing from, and they don't even comprehend what they're arguing for. As you say, the flat earthers are borrowing globe, you know, worldviews willy-nilly and trying to present it. It's bizarre.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, a horrible irony.
Yeah, no matter how many times it's pointed out to them, they still don't budge.
No.
Which makes you wonder, you know, what's really going on with them. You know, are they added, or you know, what's their real intent?
It might be, Amanda, just maybe as Brian was saying, at this sort of level of it, they just don't comprehend, you know, where they're coming from. They're just arguing against globers and trying to make points, but they don't really comprehend the philosophical position that they're taking. You know, it might be that. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been saying for a while now that, you know, when you leave the heliocentric sphere Earth narrative, you know, if you don't change the way that you think, you jump from, you know, that faith-based system to a brand new one so easily, and that's what so many have done. I mean, myself, I went through the same thing, you know, because I didn't realize that I needed to change the way I was thinking, you know, learn how to ask the right questions, to ask more questions, not just accept what I'm looking at, you know, and but yeah, it just seems like so many people they haven't changed their thought process. So they've created for themselves a new faith-based system, or joined into someone else's newly created faith-based system, whether that's stationary Earth, you know, whatever it is, RDD, electrostatics, you know, it's just a new faith-based system for them. And now trying to get them out of this one's like pulling teeth. So.
Right.
It is discouraging, man. Sorry about that earlier. sorry about the interruption, but it is discouraging talking to somebody who I consider about as open-minded as they get, better than average intelligence, and just like gaining no ground at all. But then there's part of me that thinks that I asked enough questions to and put up enough roadblocks, just even a couple in his logic, where he's got to start thinking about it, But damn, if you can't reach somebody like that, who can you reach? And what's the trick? It's just reality, man. There's nothing special. It's just demonstratable reality. What am I missing, man? That's what I'm always scratching my head and asking myself. What's the best way to try and reach people?
I would say,
even if I'm not trying to say, this is your total belief in anything, just at least what we can show, what we can logically conclude, should just be a given. It should be that simple, man. I see the frustration you go through.
well,
It should just let reality speak for itself.
I do have compassion in that regard, because what you have to consider, as I said the other day, people have had a lifetime of a certain perception. Everybody in the world has this perception of up and down, and take these things for granted. Now, when you're trying to explain this sort of stuff to people, it is very counterintuitive to their perception that they've formed, that they've been told or learned through their whole life. So it can be difficult in that sense. Where I get frustrated is when you simplify it in a process to try and convey it to them, and they put up a fight against that. That's where I get a wee bit annoyed and a bit frustrated. But again, I can still understand that they're going to have that wrestle with it. But the people that just come and repeat, that's where I lose my patience. So don't misunderstand me. I'm totally compassionate in regards to the genuine person.
I've experienced that personally, man. I can vouch for that.
Yeah.
You're patient, when you see honesty, and I like that. But wait, let me ask you a question before I forget, Del. Me, I would consider an inertial frame of reference like free fall. Is that what you would consider an inertial frame of reference? Is free fall? If not, what would you consider an inertial frame of reference?
What do you mean? I mean, it depends on how you're categorising it. Are you talking about from the mainstream position? It would be categorised as no change. So whether it's stationary or whether it's at constant velocity would be the same thing, because there's no change. There's no acceleration at play.
Sure. So is it fair to say, from your mindset, is it fair to call free falling object an inertial frame of reference?
Well, if from its position, well, it would be changing, because there is a change.
Right.
We observe a change.
So when I say inertially, I mean like no pressure whatsoever, and so that's why.
Well, physically, but this is where you're playing optically and shifting positions as opposed to physically. Because physically, if you can establish what's going on physically if it's physically happening. But if you're going to change your position from the ground's position and say, well, from my position, nothing's changing about the reference frame, but this object's coming at me, then that object you can interpret as an accelerative frame of reference. And if you're on the ball, you can interpret that it's the Earth racing towards you. If you want to play semantically and optically, then that's where they're messing about. But I'm not interested in playing semantically and optically and shifting reference positions. It's when there's actual physical force and motion, then we see and we witness certain things.
Would you consider motion absolute?
What do you mean?
I would consider motion absolute. Like we could say that space, to me, space is absolute too. But to a lot of people, it's not. If they're going to say the speed of light is what's constant or absolute, I don't buy that. I could be wrong, but in my mind, I don't believe that. So I think it starts with the question is to you is.
But see, Brian, I have an issue because I like to give people freedom, but there's so many complex, fraught things that just get bandied about willy-nilly, like the speed of light and stuff, and it's skipped over when I don't think that there's justice for that. Because what's speed? How do we denote speed?
Distance over time.
Right? So, in order to denote that light has a speed, you're invoking that it's something that travels from point A to point B.
That's a good point.
Right? So we can't just skip over these things as if they're all givens and let everybody be misunderstood about what's getting discussed. I can't. I'm sorry, for interrupting, Brian, but I need to address it when it's happening.
Yeah, sure. That's actually a good point, man.
So lights, still nobody comprehends it, but we've got theoretical notions of what it is, and to denote speed denotes that something moves from point A to point B, so it would be a physical substance then. Which, where's show me light as a physical substance?
Yeah,
so
that is an excellent point. And I see what you're saying about the semantics and everything, and I didn't mean it like a question like that. I mean it. But you would agree, though, it's fair to, in this discussion, for me to describe the free falling frame as the inertial frame and whatnot. I'm just trying to see if we're on the same page, trying to get people to just a basic starting point to get them to describe an inertial frame. But
in my position, I would postulate that no, because when the object goes, it goes through a change. It's experiencing change. It's not experiencing a constant velocity or stationary. It's decelerating from a velocity that it had. So there's something there acting.
That's still an inertial frame, though, right?
Well,
even if it's decelerating.
No,
down to zero.
Because that's an acceleration, Brian. No, because change is an acceleration. So if it's an inertial, it means it's constant. Well, either it's stationary or it's at a constant velocity. So if something's changing its velocity, there's a change in velocity, then it's no inertial.
Man, that's tough though. I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree. But man, that makes for a conversation trying to open somebody's mind up almost impossible. Like, do you see where I'm coming from? I always got to use free fall as inertial if I'm talking to somebody to try and demonstrate, to show them, demonstrable reality. I almost have to, argue within their paradigm and call that the inertial frame just to get them to acknowledge reality. You see what I'm saying?
But then you're invoking that the object, when it's released into free fall, is not changing. There's no change, when obviously there's a change that occurs.
Well, then that does beg the question, though. What would you consider? Is that a fair question?
What would I consider? What? Inertial?
Yeah.
Unchanging?
Like what frame of reference would that be in reality?
What do you mean, what frame of reference would it be in reality?
It's a tough question, I realize. I didn't know if you've ever thought of it.
It depends what we're going by, what categorisation. So if you categorise inertial as being, you can consider something that's stationary or in a constant velocity as being inertial because it's unchanging. If it changes, then there's a change, it's not inertial.
So there's no such thing in your mind. I'm not trying to trap you or nothing. I'm honest to God, I'm genuinely trying to pick your brain a little bit just to see where you're coming from. So in your mind, could there be a true inertial frame?
What, that's unchanging? Well, I would say that the motion of the Earth is constant. The matter within it that's being affected by what gives it inertia is another constant. So there's constant change happening within it.
To me, I don't know, man. To me, that's opposite of inertial frame. Like, if I'm just standing on the Earth, to me, as far as trying to have a conversation with somebody, I'm never just gonna that's almost Newtonian to me. I'm almost never going to describe that as anything but opposite of the inertial frame. Standing on the ground, I think that's change. That's going to show displacement.
Yeah, so
I think the closest I can come to inertial frame would be free fall, meaning no pressure, no displacement, no nothing.
Aye, from a vacuum, from the point of a vacuum of a constant, whether it's all stationary or whether it's all moving at a constant velocity, there would be no change. So it's inertial.
I would add, I would say the inertial frame is the closest you can come to like feeling weightless.
But if you're within it,
Pressure, I call it weight or call it pressure, call it whatever you want. I'd say the closest point you could get to no displacement at all on any level.
right, we're going
like
to change. We're going to change the subject now because we're getting bogged down. I mean, we've went over it. You know, if you're arguing from a philosophical position of a vacuum, and you're talking about inertial and non-inertial frames, it's a different discussion. Right? I'm no there. I'm no invoking globe rhetoric and want to talk from their position because it's nonsense.
I understand that. I'm not trying to argue. That's why I tried to clarify. I promise to God I'm not trying to argue, and I promise on everything I love I'm not trying to pin you down.
No, it's fine.
I am trying to pick your brain and see, you know, because I feel like I'm missing something still. Obviously I am, and if I find the right question to ask, I feel like I'll get there and be on the same page, you know.
Well, I don't know. You're the only one that knows what you're missing, Brian. You know, if I'm missing something, I get to the root of it. You know. So hopefully you get to the root of it.
I like what you're saying, man, and I just I don't think I 100% understand. I got a good grasp, but I'm trying to get a full understanding, if that's even possible to understand reality and the way it works, you know. I'm not trying to ask unfair questions either. I really ain't. I just wanted to clarify that I wasn't coming from a point of contention, man. You've explained so much to me, dude, and I do appreciate that, you know. Made sense of a lot of shit that didn't make sense before to me, bro.
I know exactly what you're saying, Brian. I think anyway, because I was struggling myself. I still am. Like if something's moving at a constant, how would anything be displaced? Because would require that acceleration.
Yeah.
And that's where I was struggling. But I think what Dell's saying is there's a relationship between inertia and mass. Right, Del?
Yeah, exactly, mate.
Matter.
Aye.
Yeah.
It's understanding the difference in position. If you're talking about it in regards to that nothing gives rise to matter, ergo there's nothing, you know, holding matter in its form and its position, then you're invoking a vacuum that matter exists independent in its own right within a void. So in that scenario, then you would, as far as I'm concerned, require constant acceleration for when we drop an object and the object and the earth to hit each other. From that philosophical position, you would need a constantly accelerating frame of reference. But if you take on board that matter has inertia, ergo there's something else there causing that inertia, resistance to the motion, then you've got two factors to come into play. Now you're not looking at having to have constant acceleration in order for the object to lose that apparent velocity and the earth and it to contact each other, because there's something causing matter to slow down. Is that clear or what?
Yeah, it's definitely clear for me. I always struggle with that though, because I remember once saying over the road, like, you know, if Walter Llewellyn or whoever, some PhD came in and he said that a constant and stationary, they're the same. And one of the guys in there that I respect a lot disagreed with me off the bat, and I was like, oh shit, where do I go from here?
Yeah.
You know. So, yeah. But that is what they would say. Honestly, a PhD Del knows that.
Yeah. Because that's their grounds. That's where the reasons from. Is that what you were saying there, Andy? Aye, that they would say that they're both the same, you know, stationary and constant.
Yeah.
I think I get it, man. So basically, the true answer to that, I now kind of see what you're saying. So there could never be a pure inertial frame of reference. If I'm grasping y'all right, so in other words, unless we had a vacuum, which is not reality, we could never have an absolute pure inertial frame of reference. Am I grasping things?
Yep. Nothing would displace.
I was kind of directing that at Andy. I should have specified.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the way you see it, Andy? Like the fact that there is no such thing as a perfect void, which that can take place in. So therefore, there's no pure, perfect inertial frame of reference achievable. You know, for the most part.
I I think all these terms confuse people. I really do. I try. That's why I like Dell, the way he tries. He just simplifies things, and I would attempt to do the same, even though I'm a bit of a monk most of the time. But when I think inertia, I just use the first bit of the word, inert.
Yeah.
And then it makes sense to me. So that'd be what I'd recommend to other people.
Yeah.
That's a good point too. Simply breathe, Andy.
And it's just simple to understand when you know that matter does not move of its own volition. It requires something external to act on it. So, something making it move and something causing it to slow down is acted on it externally.
Nobody likes feeling stupid, though. I'm just kidding. But I'm getting there. I'm understanding it, man. And I like things that make sense, man. I don't mind asking questions. Somebody who I know is you've looked into this more. You've thought about it more, obviously, and I'm just trying to get the understanding you have, man. Just so you know.
Cool.
I don't think everybody's got a grasp. I'm sure you don't, but yeah, that's why I know you're patient right out off the rip, because you put probably hours and hours of thought into this, and testing things and seeing other people's tests and diving into the subject. That's probably where your patience comes from. So on that same note, I do understand where the frustration comes from with when dealing with people who you've shown them same demonstrations you've thought of, you've done, and for them just to ignore it. I see where the frustration does come in. I would advise, just doing your best at practicing patience with people like that. But yeah, I can't say I don't understand. I do understand the impatience with certain people. I won't name.
The last 10 years has been one big test of my patience, Brian, believe me.
You told me right off the bat, dude, when I first was talking about it, and I was saying, dude, I said that I'm coming from a point that I've stone cold accepted of the Earth being stationary, and but I'm not gonna ignore the demonstration, And so you said right off the rip, you're like, well, hey, you're being honest with you, even looking into it, man. And ever since then, you have been patient, man. I do appreciate that. That should go out to anybody else, man. Don't be scared to ask questions and stuff, man. It's the only way to learn, man, is through demonstration, through thinking about shit, using logic, observing reality, man. We all got to start somewhere. So now I look back and think that stationary is ridiculous. Like to think of no vector, that to me is what's ridiculous.
Yep.
Like I'm almost ashamed of myself for ever even having contemplated that. But if you're coming from, it's almost like religion. Like, even though I consider flat Earth like a religion or something, but just that stance of thinking that it is just what it is. It is what it is, and buoyancy and density sorts it out. And adamantly arguing for that. Like, I'm like, God, how did I do that? But it's part of the process, I guess, man. And keep an open mind is very important, very, very important to even be able to get over what I would consider a religious dogma, because I did have one, and I didn't even know that I had it. There's a vector on Earth. Whatever you come up with in your mind to explain it to start off with, whatever, but there's obviously a vector. Down and up aren't the same as any other direction. Anybody who ignores that or tries to explain it away is just not being honest with yourself, not keeping an open mind. It's not possible for down and up to be the same as horizontally or laterally. They are for sure different. We can for sure demonstrate that they're different. It's not debatable. Even though I debated the shit out of it for years.
Any system with fucking two opposed vectors acting simultaneously is just bizarre, as far as I'm concerned.
I was thinking about a good one yesterday, Bill, actually. I was thinking about because ever since your stuff, I think of a lot of things in terms of pressure, right?
Yeah.
And I always shout you out, usually as well, because I love that. So, I was thinking of this press, and I was like, where's so the globe, this big, ball, and it's pressing into the space, and it's bending the fabric, and this is where we get the bending and warping of space time. And I was thinking of this like the moon that falls into this gravity well that's created, but then at the same time they say the moon's moving away from us ever so slowly.
Right.
And I was trying to reconcile that because in my mind it's falling in, and so I think it's probably because I've seen that demonstration, which to be fair is for kids, and the one with the trampoline that everybody's seen, where they put a weight in the middle and they have it orbiting around. It goes around like 2 times before it smashes into the brick or whatever it is. I was thinking that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with space and galaxies. Like Andromeda is supposed to collide with us in a certain amount of time, but it's supposed to be moving away from us simultaneously. So if you say space is expanding to get yourself out of the center of observation or whatever you're trying to do, then that means everything's getting further apart or everything is growing. It can't be neither, in my mind, unless I'm missing something. If space is expanding, that means the area between matter or matter itself and space. I mean, how can they have both? Like, I never get straight answers when it comes to that. And you think like me, Andy, bro. You think maybe deeper than for our own good, maybe.
No, I don't. This is why I always talk about stillness. I've tried to, but it usually gets interrupted. And Jeremy or somebody will come in and be like, no, we can't. You're monologuing. But I feel it's like the most important thing, because that's where, in my opinion, any insight comes from. The sort of, Yahoo moment, or whatever you want to call it, the eureka moment, comes out of that stillness, the eternal mind, if you will. I think it's us that we tend to get in our own way. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but that's the truth of it. So that's why I always want to talk about that, because I think you must have some access to that stillness inside of you by doing whatever it is. Maybe you make something. Maybe Del plays guitar. Maybe it can be all kinds of things. Art. You must have some access to it in this world, in this realm, or I don't know. I think you've probably gone a bit bonkers by now, I would say. But I don't want to sound discouraging to the audience. So, in some respects, there's a sort of I don't know, like a spiritual entropy that's happening with that as well. So you'll find yourself that can only go so far before it sort of cracks the shell of the ego, if you will. And so it's all built into this place. Even suffering's got its place. It really has. And once I saw that very clearly, that helped me a lot. So I think, especially now with the information age, there's so much info out there that this needs to be spoken about more than anything. I think it's the most important thing. I think this, this, I don't know how to put it, the safe and effective thing, that needs to be talked about a lot as well, because that's terrible as far as I'm concerned. But I get my blinkers on when it comes to that.
No, you can't talk about that. Don't That's ridiculous, dude. Telling grown men what they can discuss and opinions they can have and stuff. And facts to point out. That's where it gets real. The lines just are no longer blurred whatsoever when you suppress doctors and listen to politicians, and shit. How do you muzzle doctors? That's the people we should be listening to. Don't shut them up. Oh, I want to hear from them. Don't tell them what they can discuss or not. Maybe you can tell me that, but you damn sure can't tell them that. That's where, that's a whole subject there.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic in itself, because we sort of create boxes, don't we, around everything, and then everybody's, even the big, the best expert out there, they're terrified to think outside that box. They'd have to know their colleague very well and trust them on a personal level to then discuss anything outside of that framework. At risk of losing the job. it's a
Well, you think about, I could probably ask you, 3 words, or just say 1 or 2 words, whatever they may be, that you'd be nervous to even say on like during a live stream. Let's say in the middle of a live stream, like I'd be scared. There's a couple words just the word itself, I'd be scared to say. Like, oh, I'm offending somebody if I say this word or this name. If I name this person, oh, I'm offending somebody. What the fuck, dude?
Well, yeah, I think that's important to expose too. That's all sort of magic in some way. That's a weird way of describing it, but that's the way I see it. It's like wizards. It's like word magic, and so that needs to be absolutely exposed for what it is. And it's really context more than anything else. But words are just words. I mean, you could have a deep shift within yourself. I mean, I probably shouldn't go down this road, but you could have a deep shift within yourself when you realise that a tree, that's just a label that we stuck on it. That's not the thing. So yeah, I don't know.
I did a video of MC Toon, and he was irate mad, right? And then I went to YouTube and pulled a clip of an old Hitler speech, and I just clipped pieces of words and kind of linked them together, to make it look like MC Toon was speaking and yelling about shit in German, whatever. I think if you try to translate it, it would be gibberish almost. It'd just be like words there might be a couple words that join together during the speech, but a lot of it would be gibberish. And YouTube strikes me for it. And a lot of the people who see it, TikTok left it up, but the people who see it told me, classic or hilarious, and on TikTok I get these laughy faces and stuff, and a lot of likes, and it's like obviously funny, and I put an MC Toon, the Globe Dictator. It's obviously comedy. They strike me for hate speech. They removed the video. Strike me for hate speech, telling me to take a class and all this, and I'm like, wait a minute. How is this hate speech? This is obviously comedy. I talked to Toon about it, and he said distasteful. So even the person who's in the video, at the most, it's distasteful. So you're pulling a video down. That to me is a smudge on my character. That's like calling me a hateful person. You struck my video an obvious comedy. But then on top of that, it's like, hold on, this came off of YouTube. The video of MC Toon and the audio of the Hitler speech, they both came from YouTube. So I put them together in a comedy way, and you strike me for freaking hate speech, but the videos that they came from of 2 obviously hateful men. McToon's a hateful person. That's pretty obvious. Hitler was a hateful person. That's pretty obvious. But me, as a guy just joking around, I'm the one who gets targeted, and these videos get left up. Like, what the hell, dude? That is ridiculous.
You played in their sandbox, so that's what you need to realise. It's like I often say, if you go to a court in America or the UK, you go into basically a Freemason's lodge. So, yeah, I mean, you can't expect some. I always recommend Eustace Mullins because he wrote the book, The Rape of Justice, but without going down that road. Yeah, I mean, World War II was an interesting time. Have you seen Hitler's speeches all in English with the AI? They're amazing speeches, but don't forget that this guy's a politician, and politicians always say what people want to hear for a start. But beyond that, there's a lot to grapple, and I didn't really want to take the conversation down that road. What I was going to say is just advocate for what Del always talks about. If you're talking about like personalities, I don't know, you might want to check yourself in that moment, right? And because that's another thing that they do, the deceivers, is they use defamation. This is a very powerful tool for anything outside the box, anything that might challenge their authority. So that's why when you sent me the video, and I didn't think it was that funny, but that was my initial reaction, was yeah, you sort of playing their sort of thing, and yeah, I just didn't get it.
Dude, how's that not funny, man? Dude, I found words that matches like almost perfect in like 4 or 5 places. I mean, dude, my kids don't even know who Hitler was, and it wasn't the fact it was Hitler that made it funny. Just the fact the way it matched his lips, dude. He's obviously pissed off, dude. I'm just making humor out of anger, dude. I'm trying to lighten the fucking just the whole environment, basically. But did you hear the latest? MC Toon had a discussion with Effed Up World, and he called him out. And I noticed Robot Polisher made a video on it, but I knew Robot Polisher was gonna clip it out and make a video because MC Toon latest he went off and he's like, all flat earthers are scum, every one of them, no exceptions. They are garbage. Like he just went off and it was just I couldn't wait to see Robot Polisher's video. He's hard on too. He clips out his BS and it's funny, man. Now he's at the point now. And I messaged him. I was like, bro, we already knew how you felt about us, but thank you, for being honest and being honest with yourself. We already knew how you felt about us. Dude, don't worry about it, bud. Like you said,
again,
we don't deserve children. He didn't say that in them exact words, but the guy whose wife left him because of and won't let him see his kids because of flat Earth, and he's saying, good for you. Like you shouldn't let him see his kids if he's gonna be in a cult. He's saying that we're all scum and we don't even deserve to see our kids, basically. And we're in a cult. He just went over the edge, dude. And I get a video took down for hate speech, a comedy, ridiculous.
Yeah, again, I'm not really that interested in drama, to be honest. None of that touches me. It's like water on a duck's back. I just don't get it. I think say whatever you like. I mean, again, once you come into you're talking about personalities, egos. I mean, I expect them to do what they do, which is usually, self-interest first and foremost. So I don't really trust them. That's just they do what they do. So oh man, I had another point to me. Oh yeah, truth. When I listen to someone, for me it's more of like a resonance, and or it's a resonance in me and a vibration from them. I don't really know how to explain it, but if they don't hit that, then I don't really listen to them. Like it happens very quickly for me. Like inside of a minute, in 3 words that comes out of the mouth, I can be like, I don't want to watch that person. Yeah, I can't really explain it though very well. It'd be satisfactory.
It's definitely not easy listening to somebody, dude, like that. That is a good way to describe it, because there's really no easy way to describe it, where you just get that feeling before they've even made a point. You just know,
Yeah.
or you like them or you don't. You feel it or you don't. But it's very hard to listen to some of his hate. Bob the Science Guy. That they probably feel the same way about me, but it is what it is.
I think the best word is in.
Andrew, I'm quite the same myself. I understand fully what you mean there, mate.
I think the best word to use is intuition. That's a really good word. And truth is a weird thing, because I don't know if you've ever actually encountered something where, I don't know, for me maybe it was a deep spiritual truth, and then the weird thing is you already knew it. What the fuck's that about? Like, it's almost like it was obscured, and then once you realise it, it's like, oh, like I get this weird feeling like I already knew that. I can't really explain it though.
Yeah, I know what you mean. To be honest, when I first come back to Dell and he was talking about this type of stuff, it's like that connection. You kind of, I don't know. It's weird. You kind of know it's true, yeah. But there's like that. The further you go into it, the more, it's like you feel that connection to start with, this day, and then the deeper you go into it, you just make that full connection to him and that level of comprehension. It's crazy. I'll
say this about Dell too, man. Like, and I definitely, Dell, if you're listening, I definitely am not trying to strike a nerve here. I'm just speaking honestly, dude, and hopefully you can giggle at this, man. But I discovered your channel. Let's see, about 8 years ago, maybe 9 years. Probably you. I don't know how long you've been around. It wasn't long because this is back in 2000, into 2016, beginning of 2017, somewhere around that area. And so I liked what you said, but I remember just like having to really concentrate to make it out. You know, not always, but certain things that you said, like I was like, dude, I love what this guy's saying, but it really is hard to understand what he's saying, bro. That was back then. And then so for some reason I quit listening, you know, and you never went away, so I heard about you from time to time, and I always liked you and everything. But and then I, you know, came to watch again, and to actually sit down and watch a whole stream and everything, and I was like, dude, it's night and day, dude. I don't know if I acquired a voice or if you maybe did make a concerted effort to speak, you know, better English or whatever, like maybe to reach a broader audience. But dude, it is night and day. Maybe it's just over time I've acquired. But I gotta admit, but anybody using that as an excuse or something, that's where I'm with you on it. That's horse shit. Using that as some kind of excuse during a debate or an argument, that's a low blow. It's chicken shit. But I had to mention that, dude. It was a true truth for me. Like, I love what this guy's saying, but damn, it's hard to understand this dude, man.
Was one about when he yelled was saying, "Oh, dude, I can't understand you," and you could tell he was like, yeah, just backtracking basically. He was having an excuse, like, thing. So he's referencing because he was saying, "Oh, I can't understand you now," giving all that.
Well, I wonder if, like, to the people around him, if he sounds different, you know? Like, because he's talking to different people, you're going to naturally get the accent down. Like, when I moved to New Orleans, they all told me I had a country accent. I'm back in Florida, so now I got that again. But then when I came back to Florida, when I was younger, they're like, man, you got a accent. And I'm like, you know, that's something you don't really notice. You just live your life going about it. But I wonder if the people in and around where Dell's at heard him 7 or 8 years ago and now and think he sounds different, or maybe I just acquired an ear for him or something. Like,
Yeah,
like what he's saying.
Quite more understandable since he started, that's for sure. First time I saw Dell, he was in a hazmat suit with a big pair of goggly goggles on, holding a deflated ball, pouring water over it in his back garden.
That's funny, dude.
That's some years ago, isn't it?
I remember watching the video with Dale and he was saying, this, I think it was Marty was it, and like, we need to be able to talk better so people can understand us.
Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can eat.
Getting a bit right.
I just wanted to interject a question. As far as tide, we know the water comes in and goes back up. Is it possible that that constant upward rate flows at a very slow pace for a certain period of time and then goes back to its constant, causing the tides to go in and out? Because I'm having a tough time understanding how the tides, you know,
I thought about that too, mate, but it would be the slightest give in that push would be detectable.
and it would have to be a very slow deceleration. I mean, extremely slow.
I think we would still detect it. It would be detectable, it would be noticeable in some way. I think so, you know. But I've often wondered if just not the push itself, be it a constant, is enough to displace water on such large portions of it.
But you have to be making assumptions about tides then.
Well, that's it.
Well, I mean, you're trying to surmise what the cause of tides would be.
William came with quite an okay one, but that would also be detectable, and that's that there's a little wobble as it's rising.
Aye, well, a slight wobble or we're in some sort of rotation.
But I think a slight wobble would be recognisable at the horizon. That your stars would, you know, some of the stars.
What do you mean a wobble?
Lower because of the wobble that's against the background of the stars. If you get what I mean.
I mean, it's murky.
I can see the stars wobbling. Like if you look at a star, or even the ISS, whatever the F that is. I'm not trying to change the subject, but like watching that compared to like if you line it up with a wire that you know is just sitting there not moving. I mean, I just attribute that to the atmosphere, but it bounces around and it looks inconsistent in its path. Anything up there, airplanes, they do it. Like if now that I'm mentioning it, try and line something up stationary with an airplane that's way high. Not a low airplane, but one up there a good ways. I mean, it might be the same with low airplanes, but you'll see them like kind of wobble around. It's weird, dude. I'm attributing that to the atmosphere, maybe. I don't know.
There's so many possibilities.
Interesting about wobble. That's why I asked.
So many possibilities when it comes to the unknown of the oceans. The claim is that we've only 2% of the oceans have been discovered or looked at. So and we don't know what this plane is, how far it goes, or how far it doesn't go, and we don't know what's underneath the earth. So
what do you call them things, man? It's like a conundrum or something. Or no, not a conundrum. Yeah, that's a word too. But it was something like that. But this what I'm describing as it's a whirlpool that never goes away. There's like a few of them, and I was looking into it. I wish I knew the name of it, but it's like a spinning whirlpool in the ocean, and the biggest one I think is not too far from land, but there's however many of them on Earth that they've discovered, but it's a handful of them where it's a literal whirlpool that's always there, and so something's creating that whirlpool, and it's water's draining, and I can understand that, but how can it be ever lasting? Like, how can it? There's a name for them, dude. If somebody knows it, they can interrupt me. But like, it's just a constant drain in the ocean, in multiple places. So that might have something to do with the tides. But even thinking about that, if that's the case, then there's got to be multiple spots where the water's pushing out. You know what I'm saying?
There's some kind of natural filtration system for the oceans, which will be over a very, very long period of time with the size of it. You could see the tides almost of a kind of a breathing mechanism, that it's being taken away, it's being pushed in, it's being taken away, it's being pushed in. But the tides are so different all around the world in different places with a different how many times it goes out a day. Sometimes it goes out 4 times a day.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, there's big portions with no tides at all, man. Like the whole northeast portion of South America. There's like almost 3,000 mile stretch, and it's not in a channel or nothing like that. It's just continental shore where there's no tide at all. That's weird, but I think Dahlstrom's might be the name I was trying to think of.
There's some kind of keys to be looked at that the Great Lakes that there are in the world, landlocked lakes, and they don't have tides. I mean, they're example of what the tides are with the moon and its gravity pulling on the oceans makes no sense for many reasons, and one of them being that we do have massive lakes, different places that they should be affected as well. But I've always said myself, if the moon has an ability to lift the oceans, which is trillions and trillions and trillions of tons of water, well, we're made up of mainly water. And every now and then we'd all be lifting up off the ground if it was a case of that, you know. The mainstream model is absolutely ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
There are small. Sorry.
Showing a downward acceleration. Sorry, how was any of that showing a downward acceleration? Any of it that was just discussed.
This monkey mind character's got his camera on. Turn your camera off, dude. What was I going to say? You do have small tides on some inland lakes.
And that's what they claim, but they say it's almost immeasurable.
I'm not sure. I remember doing a deep dive on this a long time ago, actually, because my dad's side of family are all from Scotland, and so we used to go visit quite a lot. And my mum told me about, I can't remember which loch it is, but there's one that has a very pronounced tide, and that isn't inland. So yeah, that got me to thinking. I was like, well, it must be something to do with that then. And no, if you have a look, there are some tides on lakes that are inland. So yeah, back to the.
Not the Great Lakes. Like they say, the tide is like not even a centimeter. It's not even worth really discussing. It's like less than a centimeter or a centimeter.
Great Lakes.
Well, I wondered if the sun could have been affecting it in some way. You know, just the temperature. Maybe they're an expansion, contraction. I don't know. I rack my brains on what it could be, besides the sort of Eric Dubay, Mount Meru kind of idea. You know, that was the old Flat Earth script. So.
Well, whatever it is, it's consistent and inconsistent at the same time. What I mean is inconsistent by its positioning, like the South America. How can a whole continent have no tides at all, and right next to it have tides? Like that to me is weird. But it's consistency. If you do have the tides, they're sure as clockwork, and they do line up with the moon as far as time wise. I don't think they have shit to do with the moon. Whatever is giving the moon its cycle, to me is also giving the tide its cycle. I don't think the tides are caused by the moon. I've never been able to make sense of that, but it does line up time wise. It falls back an hour every day or 50 something minutes, the same as the moon. So there's where the consistency lies. But so how can something be consistently inconsistent, bro? It's a head scratcher to me.
As we've come to learn, it takes something physical to move something physical. So whatever's moving the tides back and forward, it's something physical. Our pump can be doing that, like
Absolutely.
I said, the filtration system where it's extracting and it's putting back in again, extracting and putting back in again. That would make some sense, but that means then you need to be able to, like many other things, be able to have access to certain machines, which is an impossibility really for how small we are and how big it is. To actually see what's going on, but there's, just like everywhere else, I'm quite sure it's illegal and not allowed to go certain places.
It seems to be a good explanation of the sun, though. You've got capillary action of the earth, which will drag the tides or drag water or heat. But
the time lines up with the moon, though. Like if it was the sun, then it should line up with the periodicity of the sun. 100% does not. It 100%. I'm not talking about a speck off or close. It 100% lines up with the exact cycle of the moon's time, and so that's another head scratcher, man.
But isn't the moon just on the opposite, cycle of the sun type of thing?
No.
Water reacts different than other materials in temperature. It's only when it's cold, very cold, as water turns to ice, which it expands. Otherwise, when it's hot, it doesn't expand. And any other material is the opposite. Metal, like expansion bridges, when it's hot, they expand, and when it's cold, they contract. But water's the opposite for most elements, if not all elements.
It's not compressible either.
No. Liquids are not compressible.
So yeah, I'm just asking ChatGPT, and yeah, they're very small tides. More than I thought. I think we're talking a matter of millimeters to a couple of inches. So yeah.
I don't think you can class.
Also, man, there's a lot of the things that expand when they freeze, man. I thought it was just water too, but it's most things. But they say germanium, antimony, bismuth, gallium, and silicone, along with water. I thought it was just water too, and maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I was able to find when I researched it. Because somebody pointed that out to me a while back because I said the same thing you did. But them aren't. I mean, do you consider? It gets deeper because is water. Me, I consider water an element. I don't care what they say. To me, water is its own element.
Brian, absolutely. Pure water is an element. Absolutely. Agreed. You want to hear something weird? Bill, if you're here, I want you to hear this. Every night, a couple hours before I go to bed, I put a clear glass in the freezer with, maybe about filled with a quarter of water. And when I go to bed, I add water to it just so I have ice water next to on my nightstand next to bed so I can drink. Anyways, when you look at the water after it's frozen, you can see streaks going down, which again signifies that something's being pushed up to force those streaks to go down. One day, I had what would you call it? When they're on top, a stalagmite, but I had a streak going straight up from the center figure out how the fuck that could have happened. It's like the whole refrigerator would have had to have been shook or something. The water's sitting stationary on the shelf of the freezer. How I tell you, dude, it blew my mind at the Dishonesty pop. Like there was.
What do you mean? What do you mean streak? Can you just elaborate a little bit?
There was an icicle going up from the water in the center of the cup, the center of the glass. Instead of the streaks I see usually forming going down every day, I see the same thing going down. I had this one icicle coming up from the center of the glass, probably about 2 inches high. I'm saying, how the fuck could that have happened?
Because as the expansion happens, the pressure coming upwards pushes at it. And
You just blew it up and froze immediately?
no, because it's expanding as it's freezing.
It's a crystal forming though as well, isn't it?
It's calcium that's being compressed together from the ice forming slowly. So the calcium, calcium that's in the water gets compressed into these little lines that you see, which follow, as you see on ice when it forms, it also forms in little lines. So they're being compressed into them lines.
If you caught the test bow with pure water, because they say distilled or pure water is non-conductive. It's only the minerals in it which makes it conductive.
Reverse osmosis water is not conductive until you put salt in it. Put more salt in the water, the better the conduction is of the electricity with an anode and an anode that's running through it. If you have pure water, reverse osmosis water, and if you put sugar in it, nothing happens. There's no conductivity. And then look at all the drinks, the kind of drinks that we pile in ourselves, or they get to pile in us, filled with sugar. And then think about the electricity that's flowing through your body, or that isn't flowing through your body that it should be because it's filled with sugar than more salt.
Well, reverse osmosis is different than distilled. Reverse osmosis is only one distilled takes out all of the I heard at least this is what fluoride, it only comes out with distilled water or whatever, but I had distilled water in my ice cube tray in my freezer, and I noticed a couple of times over the summer little icicles coming up through the middle of the ice cube, upward, and I remember thinking, that's weird, I wonder what did that, and that was with distilled water, so I don't know, maybe my distiller doesn't work all that great, maybe it doesn't totally take everything out or whatever, but I thought that was interesting that I've seen that recently.
I've thought about that too.
I've seen it that one time, and I've been doing this for years. I put a glass in the freezer before I go to bed. Flowers before I go to bed. Only time I've ever seen it going up. And whatever you want to call those things slowly going down, I mean, that kind of proves the motion of the earth going up, because streaks are forming in a downward, appears to be a downward direction. The one going up, that one freaked me out. I still think about that all the time. I'm saying, how the hell could that have happened?
Mother Nature does not like to be pinned down. It's always a curveball, even with something crazy as that.
Right, I'm just letting everybody know I'm turning YouTube off, so see you later to anybody watching there on YouTube. Cheers for being there. I'll see you soon. I'm just switching this live thing off anyway.
Oh, we can talk about the real juicy stuff now.
Everybody go to Flat Earth Test and on YouTube.